We are live, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Good evening. The meeting of the City Council will come to order. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the record show that all council members are present this evening. The first item is presentation. We will be commending the Newark Days Committee. If I could have the members of the committee come up and join me, please. We truly enjoy recognizing these esteemed volunteers in our community. Every year we put on a fabulous event here in the city of Newark. We celebrated our 69th birthday. Next year will be 70. And a lot of hard work, incredible hard work goes into preparing for Newark Days. It starts in January and goes all the way up until the actual date of the event. And these are really hardworking individuals who obviously don't do it for pay. They do it because they love our community. They love serving the citizens of our community. And every year we see increased crowds along the parade route and certainly down enjoying the rides and the food and the entertainment that they provide every year. And we're going to issue them a proclamation commending them for their outstanding work. I'm sorry, a commendation for their outstanding work. And the dynamic trio are here tonight, but it's a much larger committee. Started way back by former council member Shirley Sisk. And Shirley was one of our outstanding leaders in our community. And I don't want it to go by without recognizing her every opportunity that we have, because it was her dedication, devotion that made Newark Days not only a success early on, but a continued success today. So we thank Shirley, we thank her family, we certainly thank all these outstanding volunteers. So we're going to be commending the Newark Days Committee, whereas the Newark Days Committee annually celebrates the birthday of our city during the month of September. Whereas this year's Newark Days celebration was once again a great success. Whereas the Newark Days Committee is made up of talented and dedicated residents who work tirelessly, and I can't overemphasize that word, to make the event happen and who reflect the values so succinctly stated in our Newark Days celebration motto: people, pride, and progress. Now, therefore, I, Michael Hannon, Mayor of the City of Newark, on behalf of the Newark City Council, commend all of the volunteers for another successful Newark Day celebration and thank them for the commitment in making the event one that the entire city looks forward to with anticipation and pride. Not just the city. We get folks from all over the area that come down here for Newark Days. So I'm going to go ahead and present this and ask you to go ahead and say a few words.
Hi, I've been volunteering with Newark Days for probably 25 plus years now, and every year it's gotten bigger and better, and we are able to provide a parade for all our different organizations to participate in. We have a carnival, we had food booths, and we had some of the best music that we've ever had this year performing on our stage. One thing that we like is that we are able to provide back to the community by hiring, well, not hiring, the kids from the high school volunteer for our parking and our pick cleanup and different items, and we are able to provide a payment to them for their services. Thank you. I don't like to speak too much. But the kids get as much out of this as everybody else, and it's always old hometown week for me because I get to see people I haven't seen in years when they come, and it's just a wonderful celebration. Everybody gets together, and if you don't see everybody all through the year, everybody comes to Newark Days to enjoy. So thank you very much.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to underscore the comments made by the youth that participate. If you see the Newark Memorial High School kids walking around in their football jerseys, again, that's their way of giving back to the community. I'm certain there are other things that they would rather do, but they recognize this is a community event, and we look to all of our residents not only to partake, but also to participate and to volunteer. And I look forward to number 70, and I won't ask you at this point what the theme might be. Let's hold that in abeyance and get folks coming back. So again, thank you to the Newark Days Committee for the outstanding work you do for our community. It's appreciated. The next item on the agenda, ladies and gentlemen, is public comment. This is an opportunity for you to speak to any item that is not on the agenda this evening. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to an item that's not on the agenda this evening? Okay, thank you very much. The next item is our consent calendar. The consent calendar consists of the following. It's D1 through D6. Are there any items staff would like pulled from the consent calendar?
Yes, Your Honor. Item D6, please.
Yes, Vice Mayor Freitas.
Item 3.
Item D3. Any other items? City staff, any other items?
Nothing, Your Honor. Nothing.
Colleagues, any other items beside D3 and D6? Okay. So we will come back to those items. So the consent calendar will consist of the following. One is the approval of the audited demands. 2, the approval of the October 10, 2024 minutes. 4, adopt a resolution approving a Fourth Amendment to the Contractual Services Agreement with Orient Security to provide security guard services and amend the 2024-2026 biennial budget and capital improvement plan for fiscal year 25. 5, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute task order number 3 with Consort North America, Inc. for additional design services for the Central Avenue Overpass, Project 1014, and approving an amendment to the biennial budget and capital improvement plan. Would someone like to move the items to be approved with any items approved by resolution or ordinance be numbered consecutively and that the reading of the title suffice for purposes of introduction or adoption of the ordinance? So moved.
So moved.
By Councilmember Jorgens, second by Councilmember Collazo. And just give me one moment here, please. Okay, start voting, please. Oh, it's not? That's democracy in action. You know, if one person could vote, that's all that matters. I'm going to go ahead and tally that vote and we'll go back. So I'm going to go back. Okay, go ahead and start voting again.
Oh.
There's nothing for me.
Okay. Madam Clerk, is it me again?
No, there's nothing.
Oh, phew.
That's all you have. You got it.
Okay. All right, everybody voting? Third time's a charm. And that passes 5 ayes. Let's go back to item 3, and that was Vice Mayor Freitas.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I'd like to thanking our Planning Commission, Lori Vojevic, for her services as a Planning Commission. You will be reappointed for another term. It's a public service you're doing along with our colleagues. So I want to thank you for and gladly move the motion to reappointed
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
reappointed Lori Vojevic for another term.
I don't mean to embarrass you, Planning Commissioner Bogusic, but would you stand and be recognized, please? For those of you that don't know what the role of the Planning Commission, it's a significant role in our community. They take a first look at pretty much any development proposal that comes to the city and ultimately will end up on the city council for review and approval. So they do a lot of the hard work in terms of looking at development proposals, making sure that they meet the spirit of what we're trying to do in the city. And we rely on our planning commission to make good recommendations. I don't recall, and I hate asking an open question, I don't recall the city council not ever approving a planning commission referral to the council. But I only go back 10 years. City Manager Benoon, anything come to mind? Excellent. In San Jose, that happened regularly. But here, it doesn't happen because they do all the hard work. So the motion was made by the Vice Mayor to reappoint Ms. Bogusich to the Planning Commission. Can I get a second? Second. By Councilmember Apodaca. Please vote. And that passes, of course, unanimously. Thank you, colleagues.
Resolution of the City Council of the City of Newark approving the reappointment of Lori Bogusich to the Planning Commission.
Excellent. Thank you, Lori, for your continued service. It's appreciated. Mr. Benoon, item D6.
Yes, Your Honor. I understand there's some recusals as to item D6.
Yes, Your Honor. I need to recuse myself as I have real property and business interests that are within the 500 feet of a tobacco retailer that would be regulated by the proposed ordinance. And my properties are 36805 Magnolia Street. It was just a residential rental property. 7015 Thornton Avenue, Mexico Tortilla Factory. 7155, 7167, 7179 Thornton Avenue, which is commercial rental properties.
Thank you, Councilmember Collazo. Councilmember
welcome.
Apodaca?
Yes, I also have to recuse myself. I do have a real property interest within 500 feet of a tobacco retailer that would be regulated by the proposed ordinance, and the property is 35122 Lido Boulevard.
Thank you, Councilmember. Mr. Benoon.
Yes, good evening, Your Honor, and members of the council. Item D6 is a second reading of an ordinance that the City Council introduced at its last regular meeting, which was held on October 10th. This proposed ordinance regulates tobacco retail establishments throughout the city. Ordinarily, second readings of ordinances are placed on the consent calendar, as is the case here today. I ask that the item be removed solely to address the conflicts of interests. Having said that, staff and I would be happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Thank you. Is there anyone here in the public audience that would like to speak to item D6? Colleagues, any comments on this item? Okay, let's take a vote on the resolution.
Well, you motion first, so
I'm sorry.
I'll move the item.
Thank you, Councilmember Jorgens. Vice Mayor Freitas, thank you. And that passes 3 ayes with Councilmember Collazo and Councilmember Apodaca recusing themselves.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newark adding Chapter 5.42 Tobacco Retailers to the Newark Municipal Code.
City Clerk, I'm going to go back, if I may, to item D3. I didn't ask for public comment on D3, and I appreciate that. Is there anyone here that would like to comment on item D3? I'm reopening D3, which is the appointment of Ms. Bogusich to the Planning Commission. Is there anybody in the audience that wanted to speak to that? Great, I'm going to go ahead and close public hearing on that item. And do we need a new resolution, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Great. So that is the consent calendar. There are no public hearings tonight. Other business, F1, introductory presentation of background and non-project specific overarching considerations of the draft Parks Master Plan. Items 1 through 5 are the Parks Master Plan. No action is requested. Staff is seeking feedback. There are many recusals, so we will open up public comment on each one of these items as they come forward. Mr. Benoon?
Yes, good evening, Your Honor, and members of the council. Tonight, staff and a consultant will be providing a presentation to the council on the draft Parks Master Plan update. Just as the mayor indicated a moment ago, there are a fair amount of conflicts, so this may unfortunately appear a little bit disjointed. We apologize for any confusion, but this is an action item, well, not an action item, this is a presentation that spans 5 agenda items this evening. Again, due to the conflicts of interest with city council members of real property interests, tonight's presentation will be presented under D1 through D5 under this agenda. The first item, which is item F1, is an introductory presentation on the Parks Master Plan update, including an overview of the community engagement process and a summary of park needs that were identified by our community. The next 3 items, items F2 and F through F5, provide a conceptual plan for 3 specific parks where there are conflicts of interest. At each of those items, the council members who do not have a conflict of interest should provide their feedback on comments as to that particular park concept at that time. Per FPPC regulations, once the council finishes discussion on that park, that discussion is then closed and the council cannot return at a future point this evening to discuss that park. The last item, item F5, consists of an overview of the conceptual plans as to the remaining 11 parks throughout our city. After we receive council's comments and feedback, we will return at a future council meeting with a recommended final plan that incorporates council's comments. We will also return with proposed project prioritization list. We begin tonight's presentation with Ms. Roya Gonzalez, our Strategic Initiatives Manager. Ms. Gonzalez.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Honor and members of the City Council. I'm pleased to be here tonight to present the draft update of the Parks Master Plan. As many of you may recall, the original Parks Master Plan was approved by City Council in 2017. Since then, we have successfully completed 3 key projects: the Newark Dog Park at Newark Community Park, along with an all-weather athletic field and a skate park at Melnoon Sportsfield Park. To align with industry best practices, it is important to update the Parks Master Plan every 5 to 10 years. This ensures our plan remains relevant to the evolving needs of the Newark community and current with recreational trends. In May of 2023, the City Council authorized an agreement with RHAA to undertake this update. The updated plan will serve as a comprehensive guide for future park projects, assisting the council and staff in planning future park projects effectively. As City Manager Benoon mentioned, this evening you will hear an overview of the community engagement process and the thorough analysis conducted by our consultant. This work has led us to identify 4 key priorities for the 2024 update, which the consultant will review. The consultant will also present conceptual plans for each park highlighting these priority areas. At the conclusion of each presentation, we will seek your feedback on the conceptual designs and priorities to incorporate into the final plan. Tonight, we are not seeking any approvals, discussing funding, or specific project details. These discussions will occur during the future capital improvement plan process in mid-2025. We anticipate bringing the final Parks Master Plan update back to the council, along with a recommended prioritized project list as early as next month. And with that, I'd like to pass it over to Barbara Lundberg, Vice President of RHAA.
Thank you, Roya, and thank you, Mayor Hannon and council members. So let me see. I need technical assistance here. How do I forward it? Oh, it's that one? No?
Ed, can you provide some assistance, please?
Yes.
Press this button.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you. So that's not working.
We're going to have an IT update next month.
Yes, we will. Let's just start over here. Here we go, that's working. Yeah. So this button.
Forward and back.
Correct,
Okay, thank
yes.
you, thank you. I'm technology challenged. So our updated Parks and Rec Master Plan, this presentation roughly follows the format of the actual document that we have prepared. So the first section is always the introduction and executive summary. And of course, we talk about the purpose, which is developing a strategic framework for the future development and provision of parks across the city. And the update is really, it's built on the 2017 Parks Master Plan that we did. So the scope that we provided was the inventory and needs assessment, a community outreach. It was pretty extensive community outreach. We looked at the potential expansion analysis. That's adding elements to parks, amenities, and actually looking at some of the expansion for parks. We went through an exercise of priority setting, and then we made recommendations that speak about priority projects. So the planning process included stakeholder interviews, community workshops. We prepared a community survey, and we engaged staff, importantly, in this process. And we looked at review of existing and future planning efforts, which included all the ones that we did in 2017, but the new ones we looked at were the FMC Willow and Grand Park Plan, the 2023-24 Housing Element Revised Draft, the new Park Place Specific Plan, and the Playground Safety Audit that was done. It's not working again.
You're right.
This reminds me of my computer.
Yeah. I'm just going to do this, start over. How are you tonight? Good. You were here.
Yeah,
Okay.
the framework. So we looked at
See
the,
if that forwards. Yeah.
let's see. Yeah, it does, okay. Uh-oh. Oh, no, there we go. It's very sensitive. We looked at the park amenities overview. It was really looking at all your parks. We revisited them all. The issues we looked at issues and opportunities at each one of the parks, specifically focusing in on accessibility, maintenance, and the quality of the structures that were there. So these are all your parks. And the neighborhood parks are listed in blue letters. The community parks, Birch Grove, Newark, and Sportsfield Park are in red. And then the special use parks, Shirley, Sisgrove, and McGregor Fields are in green. So these are all your parks. These are all the parks that we looked at and we have recommendations for. These are just some pictures of some of the parks. You have a new park, Sanctuary Park, which is right now just a big open grass field. Okay, and then the next step, this is section 4, we looked at the needs assessment. And it's the needs assessment and the gap analysis. We look at what the city offers in terms of recreation assets. And then we understand that the demand, we understand what the demand is, and that's where we get the community involvement. And the difference between the supply, what you have, and the demand, what we hear from the community, we call the gap. So this shows some of the community engagement that we did in order to get that demand. We had a community survey, we had community outreach events, and we had stakeholder interviews. And then here's a list of the community outreach events that we had, and well, I'll show you some more of those. So this is the results of the community survey. Now,
Apologize for the technical issues. Not sure. What slide were you on?
I'm right here.
You're right here.
Yeah, right there.
Okay.
All right, we'll try again.
Keep going.
Okay, so the survey, it was online for about 5 months. We had 470 people respond to it, and this was the summation of the community survey. 71.4% indicated they wanted improved cleanliness of their parks. 69.6% requested more amenities in their parks. 68.5% indicated improvement of restrooms and adding additional restrooms. 68.4% responded they wanted to address and or replace outdated equipment. 67% improved lighting for safety, and 66.8% spoke to addressing infrastructure and maintenance. More community input. We conducted stakeholder interviews with the Newark Girls Softball League, Friends of the Urban Forest, Deaf Plus Adult Community, the soccer group, the cricket group, and the pickleball enthusiasts. So here, these are pictures of our community outreach events. The first one was at Newark Days. It was back in September of last year. Event number 2 was at the beginning of this year. It was in the library here. Event number 3 was at the Silman Center, and this is where we went through the exercise of Newark Bucks, where we had the community actually take, I think they got 10 Newark Bucks, no, maybe it was 100. But anyway, they voted by placing them in bags that indicated specific amenities. So the outcome of all the, the stakeholders in the community events, the priorities were lighted sports fields and courts, enhanced path maintenance, playground improvements, field maintenance, additional path lighting. And the new amenities we heard were additional restrooms and all abilities, inclusive playground, trails and pathways, dedicated softball fields, and new park furniture. So with the implementation, we went through a prioritization process, and the prioritization resulted in children's play areas being a high priority, restrooms a high priority, maintenance and play fields a high priority, and trail and path improvements also a high priority. And this is the prioritization process that we went through. After we have our input from the community, we prepare a matrix that includes categories that we included code and regulation compliance. Was it a high priority for the community? That's where the community input came in. Fulfills an unmet need. That was also where we heard from the community. The service area, the recommendation, where does it serve the maximum population? Potential revenue generation, which is always important. And was it included in a previous planning effort? And does it help with operational efficiency, making it more efficient with your maintenance? So this is just part of the list. We had a list that had many more recommendations, things that we had heard from the community and staff and the stakeholders. And we went through this prioritization process, and these were the top. These are the ones that came to the top. There was one other recommendation, I think it was a 9 or a 10, and all the rest of the recommendations were in the single digits.
We're going to swap computers. Do you recall? Priority projects. Is there a slide number? 14. Okay, here we go.
Okay, great. And this works?
Yes, it will.
Okay.
Yeah. There we go.
Okay, let's start again. So these are the projects, these are recommendations that fell out of this prioritization process, which was children's play areas. We went through and we've evaluated them as a high priority, a moderate priority, and a lower priority. Children's play areas really need to be replaced every 12 to 15 years, and yours are a lot older. And some of them are in really bad shape, and others are in moderate shape. But this fell out as probably, the first priority is replacing children's play areas. Also, restrooms were a high priority. Maintenance and play fields, of course, another high priority. And, maintenance of the fields, we heard that they're, lumpy, bumpy holes and gophers and things like that. And also there is a need for additional play fields and trail and pathway improvements. Okay, so here's the plan. So this is where I'm going to describe the recommendations, the priorities for each one of the parks, and I'll briefly talk about the recommendations that we had included as part of the past planning effort. So each one of the recommendations that we are making are linked back to the open space element of the city's general plan. So these are the overarching goals. For each one of the parks, we link back to your general plan with these overarching goals. So at this point, we're going to stop for a minute. Do you have any questions before I go on describing the specific parks and their recommendations?
Thank you, Barbara. Let me ask the audience first, are there any public questions on anything that's been presented thus far? You'll certainly have more opportunities to comment as we go through the plans, but is there any public comments as we have gone through kind of the first part of this presentation? Colleagues, any questions, comments, areas of, yes? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Later.
Go ahead, Barbara.
Okay, so going forward, let me see. Yes. I think we need to take a pause.
Yes, we do.
And there needs to.
We're going to do a presentation on the Lakeshore Park for the Parks Master Plan update. Council members Apodaca and Councilmember Collazo and City Manager Benoon will need to recuse themselves.
Actually, it'll be just Apodaca and Benoon.
Oh, okay. Councilor Apodaca.
Yes, I need to recuse myself because I have real property within 500 feet of this item under consideration, and that is my residence.
Mr. Benoon.
Yes, Your Honor, I too need to recuse myself. My primary residence is within 500 feet of the parameters of this park. I took no part in the preparation of the staff report. Assistant City Manager Havorka was the final reviewing officer for the city.
Mine was 600 feet.
I saw her out one day with that tape measure. Assistant City Manager, do I take council comments at this point or wait till the presentation is done on this item?
We'll start with the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, for Lakeshore Park, you can see the aligned master plan goals there in those squares. The 2024 plan update priorities include a new restroom, a playground, a new playground, and improvement of the trails and pathways. And the other recommendations from the 2017 plan that will carry again through this new master plan include outdoor fitness, group picnic, lighting, bike racks and trash receptacles, and it updated or improved planting and irrigation. So are there any questions on that?
Let me ask the public, are there any questions on this particular park in terms of some of the amenities that are being proposed? Colleagues, questions on this particular park?
Just a brief comment. I'm very glad to see that we're planning for restrooms at Lakeshore Park. It's something that's needed there. It makes too much sense that, it's surprising that we haven't included this in the past. So I'm very excited to see that here.
Other comments, questions? My question would be along the same line. Assistant City Manager, I see that we're proposing a restroom at this park. Is it because we, one, the size of the park, and two, we kind of deem it to be kind of a community park? Whomever wants
Yes.
to answer.
Yes, community parks right now that we have identified are the ones with restroom buildings, Community Park and Birch Grove Park. This park was identified, all of the parks were assessed for restrooms, and this was one of the parks that was identified as more of a priority because of the criteria used by the consultant.
And then maybe, Barbara, you can discuss briefly what was the criteria that was used to determine whether or not a bathroom should be here versus another park, for example.
Well, this is a fairly large park, and it doesn't currently have a restroom.
Right.
So, I mean, we see that as a problem. Typically, it has been that neighborhood parks, we're always, you don't need a restroom because you can run home. And we're hearing more and more now, even neighborhood parks are requesting that they have a restroom because it's hard to, when a little kid need to go, you go. So, yes.
And that makes sense.
So this is a fairly large park. And, with the potential, with lots of pathways and I think it needs a restroom.
Perfect.
That's very important.
Great, I understand that then. So a large park, it really is more of a community-wide park, and that's why a restroom is being proposed. So thank you for that
Your
explanation.
Honor,
Yes,
I believe somebody had a question.
I'm sorry. Yes, please come on if there's a question, Barbara. Or a comment. Go ahead.
Hello.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask about, I know there was an incident, maybe, I don't know if it was this year or last year, where we had a fish die off at Lakeshore, and if there's anything in the Parks Master Plan that will help mitigate that from happening again in the future.
Do me a favor, could you identify yourself just for the record, please?
Sorry, yes. My name is Yo-Yo Ye, and I'm a resident of Newark.
Thank you very much.
What we have only identified that it is an issue and we've identified as wildlife issue. It's not only fish, I think it's also geese that is an issue at this park. We've just identified it as an issue. We're not recommending a solution.
Today, when it comes back with specific plans for this specific park, there may be additional comments or suggestions on those issues as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, Vice Mayor Freitas.
Yes, Mr. Lundberg, can you go back to the previous slide? The location of the playground and the playground that is in the corner of Park Shore and Lake Boulevard, correct?
Yes, it's that, if you look at it, it's that blue area.
Yes,
Yes.
that's right there. And where is the restroom will be located?
Let's see. Did I circle?
It's right there.
Yeah, it's to.
Okay, I try, okay, that little, okay,
Yeah,
that little, okay.
it's a little
that's-
hard to see.
The combination,
It
the
says
same,
new restroom.
the same area, okay, thank
Yeah.
you. I cannot spot it, but my colleague identified, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I think those are the only questions we have on this particular park. I think we can go and let the city manager and the council member in.
This is information item only, right?
It's only an information item on
Yes.
this item.
So tiny.
The next we'll be doing a presentation on the Jerry Rayber Ash Street Park for the Parks Master Plan update. Vice Mayor Freitas, you'll need to recuse yourself, my friend.
Yes, I will when the time arrives. So it's time for me. Yes, Your Honor, on this item F3, I have to be recusing myself due to the leasehold, real property and business interest in the following 7730 Enterprise Drive, Suite number 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Okay, this is Jerry Rayber, Ash Street Park. It's a very popular park. It's very well used and gets a lot of use. You can see the aligned goals with the element of the general plan. So the 2024 plan update priorities is replace playground high, and I would maybe put this as number 1 on your list. And also the need for enhanced play fields. The other recommendations carrying over from the 2017 plan include, multi-sports fields, volleyball, additional group picnic areas, softball, decorative garden, bocce court, updated site furnishings, and improved planting and irrigation.
Thank you, Barbara.
So,
Folks, are there
do we have
que-
any questions?
Any questions? Let's go ahead and leave the slide up if we
Okay.
can. Are there any questions from the public regarding the Jerry Rayber Ash Street Park? Colleagues, any questions regarding the Jerry Rayber Ash Street Park?
I do.
Yes, Councilmember Apodaca.
Is there a reason why you didn't include more pathways kind of within the park between the two fields? I know it looks like there's a sidewalk that goes alongside, but, I was thinking of people that may want to have a picnic and then cut over to have a nice pathway.
Well, we do have the area where there is the existing full court basketball. There are pathways around that lead you into the main part of the park. We were trying to maximize the field abilities, planning for enhanced play fields. We can certainly take that recommendation and look at adding more pathways.
No, I would probably put my priorities towards the enhanced play fields out there.
Okay.
Other questions?
Yeah, just a brief comment.
Yes, Councilmember Jorgens.
So I think we've got at this park, at Ash Street Park, and then at Birch Park as well, which we're going to look at in a little bit, I guess. We've got some new improvement, bocce ball courts at both of those. I think as a council, we're going to need to, I think it would be helpful for us to prioritize one of those to start and then see if the need's still there. I think when we went out in 2017, we identified some needs that maybe don't exist anymore in 2024 and different in some way in 2024. So I think starting at one and then going to the other and prioritizing which park we'd like to see that at, I think is going to be helpful for us as we kind of respond to community needs. But that doesn't need to be a tonight decision. That's just something, as we go through this process, we're probably going to need to identify.
No, it's a good comment. Who would have thought 5 years ago pickleball was going to be a significant recreational activity here on the West Coast? I know it was in the Midwest, but it certainly migrated to the West Coast rather quickly. But recreational priorities change in communities, and I think Councilmember Jorgens' point is well taken. Before we invest in building, 3-4 bocce fields or courts, that we, do 1 or 2, see what their interest is in the community, and then proceed accordingly. I also know this field is absolutely used and packed on weekends with volleyball, so I'm glad to see volleyball is being recognized at this location, because that's a really popular sport at this location. The only question I have is when we describe the softball field, the full-sized softball field, I think there's a field currently there. Is it just simply not the right size for a softball field? What's the difference between what's currently there and what's going to be proposed there?
I think because we listed it as full-sized softball field, it wasn't a full-sized softball field existing.
Okay.
So it was an improvement.
Okay. Thank you. I think we're done with the Jerry Rayburn. I'm sorry, ma'am. Come on up. I'm sorry. No, feel free. That's why we do this.
Yeah, again. When you guys were talking about the bocce ball courts, I didn't realize they were going to go right there. And we actually planted 5 trees right there with Urban Forest Friends, and it would be really sad to have those cut down. So if we could move them, that would be great.
That I think would be, when actually a design is done, that would be an important priority, is to maintain all the existing trees. So you could definitely find another location. What we tried to do, where we have a group picnic area, is to include some kind of an activity nearby, like bocce or half-court basketball or volleyball. So it could become part of that. If you wanted to rent that group picnic area that had that activity, that activity would be part, of the, the program of renting that space.
Appreciate the comment. Yes, sir, please come forward. Well, that's an old days jersey. Is that Philadelphia or Kansas City?
It is Philadelphia, yeah.
Is it? Wow, congrats.
Thank you.
Well, now they're in Vegas, so what are we going to do? Yeah, that's true.
Andrew Patrick, I just wanted to comment on the softball field.
Yes.
So what's currently there is what looks like a pretty impressive backstop that was built, actually it has Arnold Schwarzenegger's name on it. It doesn't have dirt, so you can't play softball there right now. And also the backstop is somewhat limited in that it doesn't cover enough of the sides. So kids that are hitting would constantly hit balls either into the street, which is a pretty an active street, or into the neighbors, which is a car shop. And we would be constantly paying
Thank you for that
so.
clarification.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments? Okay, seeing none, I think we're done with the Jerry Rayburn Ash Street Park presentation.
Okay, and the next park is Cedar Boulevard Linear Park.
I'm just going to refuse to go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with this item, I need to recuse myself due to real property interest within 500 feet of the item under consideration, and that the real property is my residence, and I'm going to turn this over to our very competent Vice Mayor. Vice Mayor Freitas, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, so Cedar Boulevard Linear Park, it's not a park currently. It is open space that has informal trails. People do walk on it. You can see the aligned master plan goals are over there on the right-hand side, and the 2024 plan update priorities include trail and pathway improvements, which also means construction too, and including a new playground, because playgrounds were a high priority of the community.
Thank you. Let me ask the public if they wanted to speak on this item. Please come forward.
Yeah, can I just tell you what other
Okay,
elements that we
Please do.
have proposed
Please do.
for these, the four sections of this linear
yes,
park?
yes.
And we've included a decorative garden, a community garden, outdoor fitness, children's play area, lighting, furniture, and of course, improved pathways.
So now any member of the public want to speak on this item? Please come forward. If not, are there any council members' comments on this item?
Just one comment for myself.
Good.
Please,
It'll be
Ms.
nice to see
Councilmember-
something there for-
Councilmember Collazo.
for years since I've lived here. That's always been just such an ugly little area. So, yeah, that'd be really nice.
I will
you, Councilmember
ditto that
Pedrosa.
comment. Definitely during the pandemic and being at home at my Lido property, I took advantage of the neighborhood parks in my area. And this, as I was running to get some exercise, this has always been an area, as Councilmember Collazo said, that's just ugly, that is underutilized. So to see this proposed is really great. Actually, near my job, there is a linear park nearby. It's a corporate area, so they have a big playground. They have, a big size barbecue patio area for corporations to go and utilize. But it's a great place to utilize, have this linear park in between office buildings to get out and exercise. So I think this will be great for our community.
Thank you, Councilmember Pedrosa. Councilmember Jarvis.
Yeah, just a quick question. We've got 4 segments here, especially given the overpass and the expense of turning no park into park. It seems like much more costly than some of our other priorities here. Is this something that we're going to be able to do like one segment at a time as we're able? Is it something that we feel like we have to be able to do all 4 segments before, we start working on it?
Thank you.
I'd be happy to answer that question. We currently do have, the council did allocate funds for the construction, I believe, of Cedar Boulevard Linear Park Number 2 to take a phased approach. That is in a previous capital improvement plan. We do have a new Public Works Director who is dealing with the backlog of capital improvement projects. When the council meets next year to review this plan and identify prioritized project funding, that would certainly be a part of the consideration. If there's something the council and the community would still prefer to continue going forward with, or is this something that is lower on the priority list? And I think that would be a part of the discussion next year.
But we would be able to, just to be clear, we would be able to prioritize it segment by segment. It wouldn't
Correct.
be a situation where we feel like, we kind of have to do everything to do something.
No, when staff did the analysis a while back, we concluded that it would make sense to proceed with Linear Park 2 first. So that project does have funding. And for the remainder of the parks, we would go from there depending on the outcome of Phase 2 and what that looks like.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, we're going to, this is an information item only, so I think at this point we should call our mayor back to the podium. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lundberg. Oh, yeah, that's you. Wow. Wow, special treat.
Thank you very much. Cookies.
No, it's for you, so you give it to you. Oh, I can, hey, the mayor didn't treat me, so he treated me.
I just want to make sure when I came back on a 4-1 vote, they decided to replace the mayor. So thank you for the presentation on the Cedar Linear Park. The next, we presentation of specific parks as part of the Parks Master Plan. And by the way, there will be no recusals.
Going forward, yes. So this is going forward with the recommendations for the rest of the parks. So Birch Grove Park, you can see the aligned master plan goals up there. The 2024 plan update priorities are enhanced playfield and replace the playground. This is, we think, a high priority in this park. And also, related to the 2017 plan, we had proposed a dog park, which is no longer desired by the community in this park. And so we have turned that to just an open playfield. So other recommendations that are included in this Birch Grove Park include a dedicated bike skills park area, 2 new group picnic areas, volleyball, either the rehabilitation of the existing splash, I'll call it a splash pad element, or a new splash pad element. We have a bocce court. Once again, it's connected with the group picnic area, and just updated and improved site furnishings.
Ladies and gentlemen, any comments on the Birch Grove Park presentation? Colleagues, comments on this presentation?
Could you,
Councilmember Collazo.
could you tell me what a bike skills park is?
A bike skills park is, well, I guess I have to start with, there's bike skills, BMX, and pump tracks. Pump tracks are usually highly designed, and they've got lots of curves and bumps and ups and downs. Where a BMX park, you have a gate, and then it's usually a dirt track, and it is specific to, I think, bikes with 20-inch wheels. Now, a bike skills park is really just it's a park to practice your skills. Sometimes they have bridges, or they've got, some humps to go over, logs to go over. It can be either dirt, or it can be another surface material. It's like a lighter type of bike activity.
Okay. I was really, really hoping to see a BMX park somewhere in one of our areas here in the city, which would bring in some kind of revenue. That's really what I'm hoping for. So that's one of my main wishes before I die.
Well, we didn't have very much community input on BMX parks. It was on the community survey. We didn't get much response, and we didn't have a whole lot of response at our community meetings either.
We've talked about it here on the council, and it is something that would bring in people to our hotels, our restaurants, into our city, maybe shopping, taxes, revenue. I think that's something that our city could really use. I don't know if it's something that, it probably wasn't something that was really talked to the public, would you like a BMX park? But, it's something that has been in our discussion.
You're right, we discussed it at the 2017 Park Master Plan. I recall that conversation occurring, but maybe Mr. Manu, we can kind of revisit that, see what the interest is in the community. Are there other BMX parks in the area? What does it look like in terms of participation at those locations? But maybe we can just kind of re-examine that, and where would it be best suited to be located if we were to go down that path?
I'd like to see things that bring tournaments into our city to fill our beautiful hotels and our restaurants over at the mall. That's something that would be to our benefit. And it'd be to the benefit of our community too, so. Okay, thank you.
Any more question or comment? Shall I
Any
move
more comments? I think I asked the public, were there any comments from the public on this item? I thought I asked that, I may not have. Councilmember Jorgens.
Yeah, so it looks like, I also have a question about the bicycles park, because I didn't really know what that was. Can you talk about the kind of public feedback? Because it seems to me like it's a little bit tough to get public feedback on something that's so new, that's something that would be unique. So, can you describe what kind of the public feedback was on that led us to putting this here?
We had our first community meeting at the Newark Days, and we got a couple of dots on BMX on the boards. And then it was also on the community survey. And the reason I think we got a couple of dots, because a lot of kids showed up for the Newark Days. But we just didn't see the interest on any of the other, either the community meetings or the survey.
Just to follow up, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think more not about the BMX, but on the bike skills park. Just kind of I didn't know what that was. So I assume, it was going to be something that was going to need to be explained to the public when we did the public outreach. I was curious about if there are any reasons given why why we want this versus something else. I'm trying to understand the support and trying to still understand what a bike skills park is.
Yes, please.
These are all great questions. Just a little bit of background on BMX. It was actually in the general plan listed as a BMX or bike park in our city parks. And BMX actually did come up quite a bit in the Newark Days community outreach. And then for the remainder of the community outreach, it didn't really come up that much. When we started listening to the community and looking at the location of Birch Grove, in 2017, it was listed as a pump track. And so it's really not an ideal location for a BMX park. And so changing it from a pump track to a bike skills really opens up the accessibility to the larger community in Newark. We will certainly look at another location for a BMX park. Switching it from a pump track to a bike skills park allowed us to meet the ideas in the general plan and make it accessible to the community, since this really isn't an ideal location for a BMX park. But we will gladly look at another location for that.
Thank you. Any other questions,
And
comments?
then,
Yes.
I have a question about the splash pad area. It seems like to me, my understanding has been that that it's been non-functional at times. We've had some issues with, we haven't been able to have it on because of drought issues. And, I do worry about having this area that is non-functional a good part of the year. So I guess, can you describe maybe some of the public feedback on that? Is this something that our community does want, or is it more, how do we balance? Is this something that our community wants, or is this something that our community wants to work, and that's going to continue to be a challenge drought conditions for sure will be.
Yeah, I think it did, I mean, we did see a lot of interest in it in the community survey. Is that right? Yeah. This is Quinn from my office, and she was one of the job captains, so she knows everything backwards and forwards. So
Yeah.
it did come, it was something that was mentioned by the community quite a bit.
Right. I just think it's tough, for us to kind of split the difference between this is something that the community wants and versus this is something that the community wants to work, and it's going to be a challenge for us to have this be functional for, whatever variety of reasons. And that's, it's a worrisome thing for me to have, planned for over the next, decade or so, that this is something that we're going to, continue to, try to figure out. And, especially if there's not a solution there with some of the drought issues, that, that is a worry for me. And my last question is, we've got under previous park, we listed a full-size softball field. This one is just existing softball field. Is there a size difference? Kind of what is that, and what's the difference between full size and not?
I don't know if I can, I'm not that versed on softball fields. This is an existing softball field, and we did not make any recommendations for that other than just, you need to continue to look at the improved maintenance of those fields.
I'm pretty sure that's a full softball field since I played on it.
As we think about usage, we kind of have to think, citywide usage, we have to know kind of what it can be used for, and full size versus not is going to be a part of that decision making. So
It helps when there's no home run fence. So you hit it and it just goes and goes.
Well, that one has a fence.
Oh, does that?
That's when you get it home run it.
Yes, Your Honor.
I never
We played all-star games on
I never
there.
would have hit it over.
Oh, no, I don't know if anyone hit it over, but yes, there is a fence.
Just a clarification.
Yeah, Vice Mayor Freitas.
Thank you, Mr. Lundberg, for the presentation. On the, I believe slide 7, we don't need to go back, but you identify the supply and the demand, and you identify as a gap. So it means the gap is for more parks, or what's the language was for that?
I mean, the gap was really for more amenities in parks.
I mean, on the existing parks.
On
not-
the existing
okay,
parks
okay.
and, it's sports fields improvements and additions.
Okay.
I do like the idea of a splash pad. I do recognize and understand Councilmember Jorgen's comments regarding drought issues and things of that nature. But working in San Jose, anytime the fountains went on at the Fairmont, that place was packed with kids on hot days. Families that can't afford recreational water amenities, this would be certainly something that would be available to them to help them, get their children in an environment where they can cool off, even if it's for a short period of time. But I certainly concur with Councilmember Jorgen's comments about that. If we're going to do it, it needs to be available and functioning when it's necessary. Yes.
I just wanted to
Sure.
add, so there are 2 existing splash pads in the park system, one at Birch Grove and one at Byington. Because those are existing, the recommendations are to just upgrade the ones at those locations so it's more cost effective. So we're not putting in new splash pads that we may in the future, depending on the water restrictions, have to turn off. Your comment is noted, and just to confirm, it was brought up quite a bit in community engagement for the parks. It also happened to come up quite a bit in the facilities master plan community engagement.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, should we?
No other questions or comments on Birch Grove? Okay, thank you, Barbara.
Okay, our next park, and speaking of splash pads, is Byington Park. And Byington Park is a small park. It's really a neighborhood park. It has an existing splash pad, which is not operating, or at least it wasn't a while ago. What the 2024 priorities is basically to replace the playground, although this is a lower priority. This playground does not need like immediate fixing. So the other things that we recommended was updating the splash pad, making it operable, and the other things was bike racks and trash receptacles for this park.
Thank you, Barbara. Folks, are there any questions on this park, Byington Park? Colleagues, any questions or comments?
Yes, I do have a
regarding Byington?
question.
Councilmember Apodaca.
Is there a reason why the existing pathway doesn't go around the entire park?
No, I don't know that there's any reason why it doesn't go around the existing park.
As it is, if this goes forward, I would just like to see it go around the park. I
Yeah.
think being a remote worker, it's a good walking path, safe, quick, get out of your house, get some fresh air. So definitely a larger
Let's
walking path.
add that.
Quick question, Mr. Benoon, the area that is currently, looks like it's vacant adjoining the park, what is that space earmarked for? Do we know at this point?
I believe that parcel is owned by the school district, and that's an elementary school.
Okay. Thank you. Next park?
Okay. Our next park is Civic Center Park, and you can see the aligned goals there. The 2024 plan update priorities include replacing the playground again. This is kind of a moderate priority, and in an enhanced play field. The other recommendations from the 2017 plan included a group picnic area, a restroom. We've added actually, we recommended that there should be a fence at the end of the project adjacent to, I think the railroad tracks there. Yes. And additional bike racks and trash receptacles.
Thank you. Folks, any questions regarding the Civic Center Park? Colleagues, questions?
Yeah, so
Councilmember Jorgens.
the chain link fence there's a street that it connects to at that end. That's not going to, currently you can walk into the park rank that's baying, that's, adjacent to the railroad tracks. That's not going to cut off access. It's just going to protect the park from the railroad.
Yes, that's right. Yes, we can make sure it does not cut off access.
Other questions, comments? Okay, next park, please.
Okay. Next park is Grand Park. Now, this is a plan by the developer, and we don't really know when it's going to be implemented or what the planning for it is. But it is one of your parks.
I just wanted to clarify that the park, the developer is actually starting to do some grading, and the park needs to be completed by in 2028. So it is on schedule to be developed.
Ms. Gonzalez, help me orientate myself. This is Enterprise Drive, and I don't see another cross street nearby. Help me orientate where we are.
I'm going to have to turn around to Community Development Director Turner to help me
Just
orient myself.
So the public knows that this is where we're. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. Yes, Enterprise Drive is to the image to the south. Over to probably the right of the image would be Willow, although it doesn't show there. The Hickory is what kind of looks like is the next street with that row of trees. But that won't be a through road from the development into the park area. So Willow would be on the right of that image, and then following Willow up, you would hit Thornton.
Okay, thank you. Folks, are there any questions that you may have I'm sorry, Ms. Gonzalez, you mentioned the developer's currently working on grading this area. Do you have an anticipated date when this item might come to the council for review at this point?
I'm actually going to refer to Deputy Community Development Director Interiano.
Thank you.
Sorry, what was your question again?
When we anticipate council's going to see this park proposal come to us?
Mm-hmm. So the park was part of the specific plan for the Dumbarton area. It was already approved by City Council in terms of the location. The FMC Willow project, which was approved by City Council in 2021, had the park included as part of it. And so that's where the City Council got to see the design of the park. And we had community meeting for it. So as you can see, the park has amenities that were required as part of the specific plan. including the amphitheater, the dog park, some other recreational space, and a playground. So, yeah.
Perfect. So we've seen this and approved it. When would
Yes.
we anticipate the park might be completed then?
So Lennar is the developer who's building the subdivisions around it. Per the development agreement that we have with them, they're supposed to build it by 2028. But more recent discussions, they're kind of in a hurry to kind of get that done because they want to sell their homes too. So they hope to start construction actually in 2026. And maybe, actually, they're going to start construction actually next year, in 2025, and try to get it done by the end of 2026.
Excellent.
And that's usually the question I get from a lot of residents from the area, because they've seen the plan, they went to the meetings, and they're excited about it. So,
Good. Thank you,
yeah.
Art. Appreciate it.
Wait, don't leave.
Art? Yes. Apodaca.
Yes.
So, because I'm seeing a map and there's not any homes on here, so there's homes now, or there's homes that's being built and that's part of the construction?
Oh,
in
yeah, as
2025?
part of this Bayside area, there's
Okay.
a ton
Bayside.
of homes. So on the left side, although you can't see it here, but subdivision that's called the Harbor Point. It's about 130 homes. And to the right of this development, there'll be 237 townhomes, including a transit station property. That's for the
Okay.
future railroad that someday
Yeah.
will come. Okay.
I've been in those meetings. And so this park needs to be built before that, those 200 homes or townhomes?
Yes.
Or- Okay, great, thank you.
Good, good. Thank you. Other questions, comments? Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Jorgens.
So, question about the Bay Trail extension. So that's, as I'm trying to look at the map and remember old maps that I've looked at. So we're kind of thinking that, you know, the Bay Trail goes through Don Edwards, and where it's gonna be crossing the railroad tracks is gonna be on Willow Street, and then it's gonna come back down and connect in with the park. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the Bay Trail, like you said, it comes from like the Don Edwards area. There's not a connection from Don Edwards along Thornton to where Willow comes out here, but that is the kind of the gap that we're missing. But here, the Bay Trail will be from Willow Street. It'll come into Enterprise. It'll go through the park. It'll go along the railroad, and then it actually wraps around the kind of the bay side of this entire development, and then comes out on Central.
And then this is probably outside of the scope of what we're doing, and probably
Yeah.
we can talk about it more when we do the active transportation plan. But that stretch of Willow doesn't have any sidewalks on the, I guess, bay side of the street over the railroad tracks, and that's, with all the people that are now living here in Newark, that's something that we're gonna need to connect in with the rest. But that's a little bit outside the scope of this project. I just wanted to see, kind of visualize more of the Bay Trail, make sure the picture in my head was correct when we're talking about that. And then my last comment on this one, we've seen, as at a couple of the parks, new bike racks being installed. I just, to staff, you know, let's be really cautious about, you know, the style of bike racks that we're putting in place, making sure that, you know, you're actually able to secure the bikes, and it's not just a bike rack, say that we've got a bike rack. It's something that, you know, we can have enough points of contact that a bike can be securely locked there.
Sounds good.
Thank you,
One more
Councilmember.
question, don't leave.
Councilmember Apodaca.
And actually, this may be for Roya. In this design right here, because this is called Grand Park, is this a community park or is this just a neighborhood park? I
No,
forget.
this is going to be, this will be, when the development is completed, it'll be dedicated to the city. So it will be a public park.
Okay. Are these parking spaces? Because since I see that
Yes.
you're going to have, so all these in the inside where that circular, those are parking spaces?
Yep.
So if I want to drive from my side of Newark over here to go watch a movie, I'm going to be able to park my car?
Yep. there's
Okay.
Plenty of parking there.
All right.
Excellent. Any last questions before we let Art go? All right, thank you, Art. Okay, Barbara, next park, please.
Okay, the next park is McGregor Playfields, and that is part of the joint use agreement with the school district. It is currently used a lot for soccer. We looked at it because it is the only park that can fit a cricket pitch and outfield. And you can see the outline of the pitch and then the outline of the outfield in that dashed line. So But the thing is, this was not a high priority in our community engagement. So it's really just to indicate that if you did go forward with a cricket pitch, that it would fit in McGregor Fields. Part of the 2024 plan update priorities was just to, enhanced play fields, to field maintenance to make it more playable.
Folks, are there questions regarding McGregor playfields? Yes, sir, please come forward.
Hi, Andrew Patrick. It's good to have a cricket pitch in the middle there. The nice thing about cricket is that aside from the middle part, what you need for cricket, the rest of it, can be used outside. There's still a lot of unused space, I think, especially along the right corner there and the left. You could put other amenities, such as backstops or soccer goals or things like that. And then, it can kind of be sectioned off for cricket. I would love to see that. That's it.
Thank you. Other public comments regarding McGregor Fields?
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes.
I think staff has identified two concerns that I'd just like to discuss briefly with the council at this point. First, this would require installation of and make improvements on land that is not owned by the city. This land is owned by the Newark Unified School District. To the extent that the city wants to make improvements on that land, we can do so, but we have to negotiate with the school district. But more importantly, would be expending funds for property that is not on the city, that's not the city's. Secondly, engineering staff did not have an opportunity to review this, and the installation of a cricket pitch would likely require installation of some netting along Cedar Boulevard to ensure that cars are not damaged through cricket practices and games. Those are some initial staff concerns. In addition to those concerns, as indicated by the consultant, cricket does not appear to be something that was identified by the community as a high priority need. Perhaps other uses would be, the community would be better served by other uses such as multi-sports fields. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Roya Gonzalez. I don't know if Ms. Gonzalez has anything to add to what I just indicated.
Thank you. Not much else to add. I just wanted to reiterate that during community engagement, the need for multi-use sports fields, not only to serve the soccer community, softball, baseball, there were a couple other sports that came up that ranked much higher on community engagement than cricket. I also wanted to point out, as we provided a commendation to Newark Days earlier this evening, Newark Days does take place in this very area. And the last thing I wanted to point out is just the maintenance requirements of a cricket pitch. It does take, my understanding, a specialized maintenance process. As we have heard, that enhancing our playfields is a priority, and I would just be cautious in adding a specialized maintenance requirement to that list of things to maintain.
And I think some of our nearby cities have also invested in established some cricket fields that certainly, as this sport continues to grow, there are opportunities in nearby cities to play cricket. Is that your understanding, Mr. Benoon? Okay, great. Next.
Okay, I'll go forward. This is Mayhew's Landing Park. It's a neighborhood park, and our 2024 plan update priorities are to replace the playground, and this is kind of a moderate or our median priority, but it should be replaced in the future. Other recommendations that we've made, including adult fitness, updated group picnic area, there's one there now. Of course, as we have heard, field maintenance, and adding bike racks and trash receptacles.
Thank you, Barbara. Are there any questions from the public regarding the Mayhew's Landing Park? Colleagues, any questions on this item?
I don't have a question, I have a comment.
Yes, Councilmember Apodaca.
This is actually, I have, probably the last time I was there was 8 months ago when I was living at my other property, but I do have to say this is a rather highly used pathway and park in the neighborhood, especially during COVID. A lot more people got out to use our parks, using that pathway. For staff, I would say that the pathway, especially near the trees in the picnic area, are very uneven because of the roots. They need some attention, so I just want to bring that because those trees are very big and those roots are tearing up that path. And I know it's only moderate, but that equipment has been here a very long time. I took my little nephews there. So definitely something that I think, yes, I'm replacing the playground equipment here.
No, and to Councilmember Apodaca's points on previous park, this has a nice pathway throughout the entire park. And as mentioned with some of the pathways being damaged by the roots, but this, I think, demonstrates why those pathways are important. Next park?
Yeah. We should note that.
Yes, I'm sorry, there's a question back here. Come on up. Good evening.
Hi.
Thank you for coming.
My name's Julie, and actually my school's like right by this park.
Yes.
So I just wanted to say, because when I go to field trips there, or like picnics, there's no bathroom, so it's kind of like hard. So I think that we should add bathrooms there, because it's needed.
Thank you for that comment, Julie.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Shall I
Yes.
go on?
Yes.
Okay, Marabou Park. It's another neighborhood park. Our 2024 plan update priorities, once again, including the replace the playground, and we have indicated we think this is a high priority. And the other elements that we have added to it is a climbing wall and a half-court basketball.
Excellent. Folks, any questions on the Marabou Park? Yes, Lori, come on up.
This is, my name's Lori Bovicic. This is one of the few parks that has swings, and swings are very important for children's development. A lot of things in parks now are stationary, but to actually have swings are very important for their motor skills and their cognitive skills. And also, the actual Marabou Park sign has been burnt, and it's been there for a long time now. And I wonder if there's any plan on just at least removing it, because right now it looks like a charred cross.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Benoon. I think Mr. Benoon wants to comment.
Oh, sure. I'd be happy to respond to that.
Yes, please.
The council did review some initial conceptual designs as it relates to our signage at parks. Staff is working on finalizing that, and we hope to proceed at some point in the future on that project.
Okay, thank you. Please come forward.
Sorry, you're getting a lot of me today. Mirabel Park, just as a note, because right beyond there is what used to be snow. That tree area that's kind of beyond the grass area, it's just kind of unusable. All the ground under it, it's uneven. It's covered in just foliage. Like you can't sit there as a picnic. Unfortunately, there's we've had issues with there was a couple issues a couple years ago where people would live out there and unfortunately expose themselves to the people. So like there's a lot of space here that I think that can be used better. I'm not saying that we want to like cut down on the trees or anything like that, but the area under them, maybe like evening out the grass and things like that would go a long way towards this park.
Sure. Thank you. Other comments? Any last comments, colleagues? Okay, next park, please.
Okay, next park is Music Park. This is also a neighborhood park. It's adjacent to a school, and I'm not sure that school is actually operating right now. What we recommended as a update the priorities is to replace playground, although we don't see that as a real high priority. Other recommendations are more seating areas, benches. We proposed a barrier fence against Cedar Boulevard, but not to totally enclose the park. We heard comments about this, if we fenced it, it would become a dog park. So it would be an open fence, but it would still, at least along Cedar Boulevard, as a safety thing.
No, and that makes sense, so that folks that live along Cedar Boulevard to the north of the park would have easy access to it. Folks, are there any comments regarding Music Park? Yes, hands up back here, or, oh, no, just stretching. Okay, colleagues, any questions on music? Councilmember Jorgens?
Yeah, so I think with music in Marabou Park, I think both of those, and one of our public commenters mentioned it, they're a little more underused, and especially with both the schools that it's adjacent to now being closed. I think we have an opportunity to figure out how to use these parks better. You know, the idea originally was that, you know, the school and the park kind of operating, you know, harmony with each other as the public spaces. You know, we're losing one of those. You know, I think we're going to have to come back once we know what the use for the school, that land, the other part of the land is going to be, and figure out what the uses is. So, you know, I would hope to see that once, you know, those decisions are made by Newark Unified, that, you know, we can come back and take a look at these two parks specifically and see kind of how we can better utilize this space.
Mayor Hannah?
Yeah. Councilmember Apodaca.
I was just going to say on Mirabel Park, it's actually not underutilized because that was the other park next to my house. So for me, not getting bored, I use that park quite a bit. And you see a lot of seniors doing their walks during the day.
I said that wrong. There's a lot of people there, but in terms of the space, there's probably some space that we can, you know, use better, as there's a ton of people at that park, so.
But they like I mean, a lot of that is the pathways that are great for the seniors especially, and it's a nice little loop in the neighborhood.
But I also think your point's well taken, that as we look at the proximity of parks to schools, and certainly the initial thought was that a school site located next to a park was going to get that utilization from the kids attending the school, after school, to things of that nature. So I think, Councilmember Jorgens, your point that as some future development comes forward regarding these vacant school sites, there may be an opportunity to collaborate and figure out how do we make this maybe a bigger park to support the community moving forward. So, comment well made. Next park, please.
Okay, next park is Newark Community Park. This is kind of a very important park for your city. A lot of activities happen here. For the 2024 plan update priorities, we recommend replacing the playground. That's as a high priority. Also, this would be a good location for a new all abilities / inclusive play area if you wanted to go forward with replacing the existing play areas. And update and replace and add a new restroom. The other recommendations that we made in the prior 2017 plan was we indicated 4 sheltered group picnic areas. So as I had mentioned before, we included activities such as volleyball, bocce ball, or a half basketball court or a full basketball court, you know, as part of the activity that is related to these group picnic areas. So we also recommend in the future, you might think about converting the tennis courts, at least a part of the tennis courts, into pickleball courts. We did hear that from the community. It wasn't a priority, though. And of course, the other comments were, you know, additional lighting and additional bike and trash receptacles.
Excellent. Folks, any comments on the Newark Community Center Park? Colleagues, comments, questions?
I have a question.
Councilmember Collazo.
Is there a way to find out how many people use the volleyball courts?
Good evening. So there is no volleyball courts currently at that park. The only one that we kind of keep track of is the rentals at the Ash Street Park. I don't have those numbers for Ash Street Park, but I can get those to you.
Okay. Thank you.
And as to pickleball, you know, I support pickleball, but we've heard from a lot of communities the noise associated with pickleball to surrounding residential neighborhoods. So we're going to need to be certainly cautious of that as we look at pickleball, certainly outdoors. Just a thought. Yes, Ms. Gonzalez.
I just wanted to add, as Barbara mentioned, it wasn't a priority of the community. It was almost near the end of the list of items. What she's showing here is just, it's really the only potential area at this point within our parks that is not completely surrounded by residential neighborhoods, and that's why if at some point down the line that changes and it's something that our community needs, then we could reevaluate this location.
Great, thank you. Any last comments? Councilmember
Yeah,
Jorgens?
just, as we see another, couple more proposed bocce courts, I think as we start to prioritize that, my perspective would be, let's start whichever one of these parks is going to have the least impact on, what's their existing, especially, when it comes to tree canopy at parks. So, whatever's going to have the least impact, I think we start there and go from there. But we can discuss prioritization issues later on.
Excellent. Next park?
Okay. Next park is Sanctuary Park. And this is one of your new parks. And as I had shown you before on that slide showing the parks, it's just a big open grass area right now. So we did this really very conceptual plan, which includes a couple of playgrounds, a school-age taught playground. We have 2 group picnic areas. We have a half-court basketball, a pathway that goes all around it, and a multi-sports field. But for the 2024 priorities, it is developing that as a new play field and adding the new playgrounds to this park.
Thank you, Barbara. Folks, any questions regarding the Sanctuary Park? Colleagues? Vice Mayor Freitas.
This vacant property there next to was for the future Newark Unified School District to build some, but it's the expirations, I believe it's in July of 25 next year. So what's the purpose of that vacant land? It's to extend the park, it's to give them back to the school, to the developer to build, or what?
We're currently reviewing the development agreement that was approved by the council back in 2015. That development agreement does obligate that land for educational purposes and only educational purposes. Should the school district not be able to begin construction on a school site by next summer, which I think is a relatively safe assumption, then likely that land would revert back to the developer. And the city would, in exchange, receive some sort of payment that could be used for any general government purpose. And the council would have a discussion at that time as to how those funds would be used. Potentially, should the council desire to use it towards parks, that would be certainly an option for the council,
Also, it's a
as well as
school
any general,
operation.
right.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Jorgens.
I'll just say if, that does happen and NUSD isn't able to start on a school site, I think it makes sense to bring some of that money that we wouldn't have had if they were able to build a school site into this park and, really enhancing the neighborhood and keeping it, while it can be used for any general government purpose, to keep it to enhance, the neighborhood that resource was supposed to enhance.
And we will certainly review the development agreement, confirm that what I indicated is true, which I highly believe it is. Assuming that to be the case, council at the future would have that discussion. My recollection was that it was an appraised value going back to 2010, and that appraised value is about $3.2 million, if memory serves me correctly. But more information to come next year in terms of how to expend those funds.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding this item?
Okay.
Thank you.
Next park, Shirley Sisk Grove Park. Yeah, this right now is a vacant site, but what we see it's being used for performances, but it doesn't have any defined facilities on it. The 2024 plan update priorities include a new playground and a new restroom. And other recommendations from the last Parks and Master Plan was to include an amphitheater. We had indicated a children's play area. This go around, we've indicated a loading zone that is behind the theater. and restroom storage area. Parking was from the other plan, and then the addition of bike racks and trash, and the restroom and storage building.
Excellent. Folks, questions regarding Shirley Sisk Grove? Colleagues, questions regarding Shirley Sisk Grove?
No, my only
sorry,
comment is,
Apodaca?
this is a great addition to the community. I would probably not put the restrooms next to the bandstand or band shell, because that would be difficult with a child, and when the band's playing there, move it away from that area.
Councilman Collazo.
With that parking, it's gonna be hard to get my 3,000 people in there for the mariachi festival. It's taking a lot of land out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something just to make note of. Mr. Benoon, again, I'm curious about the vacant lot right there on Cedar Boulevard. I understand that that is a privately owned property. Have we had any discussions with the owner of that property in terms of anticipated use? Certainly would be a great opportunity to expand the park into that vacant lot area, but I don't know if we've had any conversations with that owner.
Yes, we've had conversations from time to time. You're correct, Your Honor, that is privately owned. It's been owned by the same party for quite a wild number of years. In fact, I dare say decades. We've routinely interacted with them from time to time, and they've submitted project proposals that frankly staff would not support. Last time we met with them was probably a number of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. So in essence, it may very well appear that that private party is land speculating at this point. Mr. Turner, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Just really quickly, that site is within the New Park Place specific plan area, so that site would be subject to the rules and regulations that the specific plan provides. But to confirm Mr. Benoon's statements, yes, we haven't had any recent discussions with the property owner on that site.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Turner. Okay, next part.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Jorgens?
I was also curious about the parking lots, because I'm looking at this picture here, and this picture is mostly a big parking lot. And, looking at some of the New Park area, it doesn't seem like parking's been a challenge. And, the size of the parking lot that we're able to do it is kind of to me at least, the worst of, all the outcomes, because it's not really big enough to support all the parking that we need at that kind of events, but it does take a significant part of, our really limited public acreage for parks. And, when we have that, parking lot there, it reduces connections throughout the rest of the New Park specific plan. It just makes it harder to feel connected to the rest of the when we're building parking lots of that size. So I would hope that would come back. I understand the need for some parking. Fingers crossed that we can build out New Park specific plan the way that we hope. And if that was the case, maybe there would be some need for some handicap spots there for folks that would need closer access. But I think a full parking lot to me doesn't make a lot of sense. I am very excited to see, though, the pedestrian crossing there. That would be, the first pedestrian crossing across that ring road, which, is, to me, always a big problem in, connecting, the rest of Newark with New Park Mall, that there's really no way to walk over there. So I'm really glad to see that we do have our first crossing there. And then kind of outside the scope here, but when we start looking at the active transportation plan, that stretch of Cedar Boulevard that we're seeing across from Shirley Sisk Grove doesn't have a sidewalk on the side of the street closer to Shirley Sisk Grove. And then the sidewalks kind of on North Magazine, and then the other side, those don't have sidewalks either. So for us to utilize this park the way that we need to, we're going to need to look at our kind of pedestrian infrastructure and really start building out our sidewalks in that area.
And if I recall correctly, the reason we have the parking set aside here at this Shirley Sisk Grove is because the New Park Master Plan really had housing right up to the roadway for the new development. So that's why we needed to create the parking, because that parking lot that is currently there was not going to be there any longer. Ms. Gonzalez?
I was going to say that exact, give that exact reason that's why it's included there. Your points are well taken, and I think that when this project comes before council as part of the capital improvement plan, we can definitely evaluate the size of the parking lot and really evaluate what's needed. I also just wanted to point out that it has been a safety concern as members of the public are having to cross over that street from New Park Mall. we have to set up quite extensive traffic control and get our maintenance crews out there to really, monitor that area. But we'll definitely look at it closer once it comes time to moving forward.
Good. Thank you. Question from the back. Come on up, please.
So I know we've been discussing a lot of things tonight, and one thing we haven't really discussed is the homeless population. And I know that there's always a connection between the homeless population and parks. And one thing I've learned too when I've been talking to citizens is a lot of people have been saying that the public restrooms that we have in those locations are used a lot by the homeless, and they're not as well taken care of. And earlier on, when we talked about the lake park area, the lake shore, a lot of the residents told me they do not want a restroom there. And the reason behind that is they don't want to have the situation that happens with public restrooms as well. So, I mean, there's a connection to this, and we kind of need to, it's kind of like the elephant in the room, but we kind of need to discuss that. So I kind of wanted to see if that's being brought into the plans or being taken into consideration.
Sure. Ms. Gonzalez?
Yeah.
Thank you for that comment. That's correct. We also heard that during community engagement. There are many new restroom options out there, including modular, self-locking type of restrooms that we could definitely explore further. And increased maintenance and janitorial services at the restrooms. Any new restroom that we would add, including the one at the Lakeshore Park, would involve additional community engagement with those people that are living, the residents that are living in that area, which we would certainly do if we decided to move forward with that project. Homelessness is a complex issue. It is in our community, and it's something that we're always, working to improve. We will definitely look at other restroom opportunities like these modular restrooms that other communities are starting to use.
Thank you. Yes, Vice Mayor Freitas.
Just on the vacant lot on Cedar, and I echo my question many years ago about this. It's a lot of people walking there from north-south directions, and there is a dirt sidewalk, and besides that, it is a barber fence there, very, very dangerous for the kids. Even I'm using the kids, the pedestrians crossing there. So, but I said that many years ago, and I understand the landlord. It has an abundant piece of property and do nothing, but you should comply with the basic codes there because it's dangerous for the people walking there.
Well stated.
Thank you. Yep.
Any other comments? Next park, please.
Okay, next park, Sportsfield Park. And this is the park where you added the all-weather turf fields that was a recommendation from the last master plan, as well as the skate park. So this time we're looking at the rest of the site, and we recognize there is a need for sports fields. We've indicated a baseball field, a regulation soccer field, and multi-sports fields kind of adjacent to that. We know that the city is working on an interim solution to provide sports fields for the community that wants to have them. So the priority projects in the 2024 plan is, yes, the enhanced play fields, baseball, the regulations soccer field, and the four multi-use fields, a new restroom, and a new playground. Other recommendations included a group picnic area, a parking area, a concession storage building, a batting cage, and outdoor fitness.
This is exactly what I've envisioned for this area. I mean, this is our recreation, center of our city. I love the design. Folks, questions, comments on this? Yes, sir, please come forward. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, council members. My name is Javier. I'm here representing the Newark Soccer Club. This is all very exciting stuff. Not just this, right? This is obviously something that we were excited about for years now because The all-turf fields have served us great purpose, but we're simply just running out of space. I noticed that across other parks, there was also plans for playing fields. I know softball and baseball lost the fields over at, what is it, Snow Elementary, I believe. So, you know, there's always need for more space. For us personally, we've grown a ton. Since 2017, when the city of Newark installed the all-turf fields, we went from like 750 players through both programs, competitive and recreational, to now 1,500, close to 1,500. So we're simply running out of space. And I know firsthand, because I'm the guy that's out there every Friday morning restriping the soccer fields at Sports Field, the gopher holes, and it's just a mess, right? And I know they're old, and I understand irrigation and all of that good stuff plays a factor, right? More fields will allow us to host tournaments, which we've been wanting to do, bringing revenue to the city, putting people in, you know, hotel rooms and restaurants and stuff like that. So right now we're planning an invitational on the turf fields, and that's really all we can accommodate, just a certain, you know, just a handful of teams. But hopefully in the future, when all these fields get upgraded, we can definitely run 3-4 a year, right? That'll bring in revenue to the city. I had a couple questions. Will the new playing fields be natural grass?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right, cool. And then lights or no lights?
I think, did we recommend, yeah, no,
On there, okay, cool,
yeah.
yeah. All right, cool. And then the timeline for construction, were all the parks done at once or no? Once it gets approved, then it takes years and years?
Everything takes years and years.
At this point, this is a master plan which just lays out conceptual plans for each of the parks. What will happen is during the capital improvement process, every 2 years, the city council will review a list of projects and fund projects as funds are available. So really, there's no timeline in place at this point.
Gotcha.
Tick tock, tick tock.
I mean, just, you know, selfishly, if this could kind of get going, just because this is kind of our hub, and the fields are just not in good condition. The grass fields, right? Turf fields we love, but we can only get so much use out of them now with all the teams, and we have I think we have teams out there right now, just because we're around the clock.
It's turned into a group discussion up here. I just wanted to correct myself. The completion of this project actually has been funded in a previous budget cycle. So at this point, hopefully in the near future, the project will get initiated.
All right, cool.
And staff would be more than happy to follow up with the soccer club when we have a definitive construction timetable.
Perfect. All right, thank you guys.
Newark is a powerhouse when it comes to soccer.
Yeah, I was gonna, I didn't want to boast too much,
No,
but.
no, we allow boasting.
Yeah, over the last, or since, I guess you can say since these fields were built, and once we kind of rebranded, we were able to attract a lot of talented, just locally, I mean, we have kids coming from Modesto, to be honest with you, at the older age groups. We've had, I think, 3 or 4 teams win national championships over those last few years. And we provide opportunities for, you know, from grassroots, recreational, locally, to competitive and different platforms, both regionally and nationally. So, I mean, we're interested in growing, not turning kids away, and I feel it's a win-win for all.
And I know my colleagues will agree with me, when we talk about the government, we have responsibilities when it comes to housing, jobs, recreation.
Correct.
And all 3 of those can be intertwined any which way.
Absolutely.
But we need to make sure we have all the recreational amenities that our kids can participate in, because that's what we want to see in our community. So we absolutely agree with you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Excellent. Any comments? Yes, Councilmember Collazo.
So as I'm looking at this takes care of some of our soccer fields and takes care of our softball and baseball. So I really like it. But up here where it says concession storage, what exactly is concession storage?
It's meant to be a concession building that has, also it has storage connected with it. It's not storage for the concession, it's storage, well, it could be.
It's concession stand?
Yes, it's a concession stand.
It's where all those kids buy those hot dogs.
Nachos and everything else,
everything else.
yes. Okay, I like that, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Councilmember Jorgens.
So we've had those existing turf fields for several years now. What's the, status of the quality of where we're at versus kind of what we expected from the lifespan of those? Are we at where we're at? Are they wearing down quicker than we expected?
They're, as you heard, they're not in the best shape. I'm going to actually turn to Public Works Director, Mr. Young, if he has anything else he'd like to add about the fields.
Yes, Mayor and council members. So that's the fields there is something I will look at. We know that they're in a certain condition that it needs improvement. So I think the next step is to look at the fields right now currently for next year and go, well, what can we do to renovate these fields? There are field renovation programs, and we want to ensure that we develop a good program and that we can support on that field.
Sorry, that's the multi-sport field or the all-weather turf field?
The grass fields, where they're multi-sports fields right now. So it's something that I myself wanted to go out and take a look at with the crew, determine what are we doing right now, what are we doing for annual renovations, take a look at what other cities are doing to renovate those fields too. Typically the standard is on renovating fields is you typically have you seed it and there's a top dressing every year also. So and you aerate too. So we need to find out what we're doing now and establish a good plan for the future to get the results that we want and the architect wants also.
That's good to know. I was actually asking, about the all-weather turf fields.
How are those holding up?
How are those holding up?
Okay, so we'll have to inspect that also.
It would be good for me to get an update because, this is our first time doing this, trying to see we had a lifespan on it. Well, are we hitting our goals there?
Yeah, and there is a maintenance plan. Once again, I'm new and I'm taking a look at the maintenance plan and I have to make sure that we're following the recommended maintenance plan when it was developed.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes, I just want to talk about the artificial turf fields. The fields are currently still under warranty until 2028. The reason we found that out is because we had a seam that opened up on the fields, and we called the company, and they came out within a week and fixed it. And that's when they were kind of like, hey, you guys are still in the warranty area. They looked at the fields, kind of mentioned that they're doing really good right now, and so that way we're being a little bit more vigilant right now between now and 2028 if there needs to be any repair work. We want to make sure it's done during that period before it expires and adds a cost to the city. Because right now, those repairs that we just did on the seam did not cost us anything. So thank you.
That's good to hear. So especially if we get a report coming back while we're still under the warranty and get that work done, that would be good. And then just kind of a comment, with the all-weather turf fields, we do have, big fence around them. You got to, have a permit to be there. And I get that. It's a delicate resource that, we do really want for the community. I think it's going to be tough as we go forward to find uses that work as well for the community when we have big fences and permits. So as we look at some of these specific uses, making sure that the community is able to access them is something that's going to be really important to me.
Before you go, Nick, you mentioned the warranty expiring in 2028. Is there an opportunity for us to do a cost analysis as to whether or not it would make sense to see if we can't extend that warranty beyond 2028 because we made such a significant investment in that property?
Staff would be happy to conduct that assessment.
Okay. And I do understand the fencing in all honesty because as I recall, as we were constructing this field, a truck got onto the field and did significant damage to that turf field, this field, if I'm not, do I recall correctly?
I remember a vehicle doing the regular grass fields in the back.
The grass field? Okay.
Yeah, so not the artificial fields, but yes, we did have somebody go out with a pickup truck, and it was after it rained and kind of left a lot of tire marks throughout the fields, and so we did have to go in and correct that.
And there are instances in other cities where they have it more open and the fields don't last as long, and it is a more delicate resource that we do have to be more careful with, and I understand that. I think we found our first stab at the apple doing that is, it's worked out for us, but I don't know if the next bite will have the same kind of benefit, drawback to having, big fences. So it's just
makes sense. I think there's a number of questions behind you. Good afternoon, good evening.
I'm Julie. I'm Natalia. I'm Mackenzie. I'm Alana.
Okay,
And,
great. Welcome.
So basically, we just wanted to like show like our attention. So basically, like I made this poster to bring to the meeting today, and I also got people to sign it who also want turf fields, and I got around 60 people.
Outstanding.
Yeah, and thank you. And I have we have a question about the playground, and we're just asking where would that be because we can't really tell.
Sure.
You see, is this a pointer? Maybe it is.
You won't be able to point.
Oh, okay. So you see that colored kind of orange there?
Yeah.
That is what we're calling a school-age playground. And then up further, the blue blob, I'll call it a blob, that is a tot-age playground.
Oh, it's like a toddler. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and then there's, in between the two of them is a group picnic area.
So it's just beyond the fence for the baseball field right now, just outside the fence, that's where that's
Yeah.
gonna be located.
Yes.
We just have also a concern about the bathrooms, cause like it's really dirty and everything. Like there's cobwebs and like some of the there's writing or graffiti, and like when kids need to use the restroom, it's like really dirty. So if we ask you if you can fix the bathrooms in the way that it'll
Sure.
be very clean.
No, in fact, at the beginning of the presentation, when Barbara talked about some of the things that the community identified as priorities, restrooms were right up there at the top. So we recognize that our community parks, we, the city, need to do a better job when it comes to making sure that those bathrooms are not only clean, but safe for you to use. We recognize that.
Yeah, because this is really important to us because this is like where we spend most of our time.
I agree.
So thank you so much.
I agree. Mr. Benu, just a quick question on restrooms, because I know there's a lot of activity out there on Saturdays and Sundays. Do folks have access to the Silliman Center to use the restrooms there? Is that open for them to use restrooms?
I believe it is, Mr. Cuevas.
It's a yes and no. And so
Let's stay with the yes.
Yes. We were having some issues with homeless individuals coming into the center, and that's probably why you'll notice that there's some gates that are kind of preventing people going into the center itself. But if we see somebody that's really needs to go to the bathroom, we let them use the family changing rooms that are there right now.
Excellent.
And
Thank
so,
you.
but the park bathrooms outside are open as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Councilmember Apodaca?
I do have a comment. So staff, you gotta keep me honest. Didn't the East Bay Regional Park District bond measure actually pay for some of the turf fields as one of their projects?
I don't recall that being the case. I don't know if there's anybody here with institutional knowledge on this.
Because I thought they had put some funding for us and say, we don't really have an East Bay Regional Park District, but they do need our voters to vote yes on their bond measure. So I thought they had put some money for some of our parks, and this was one of them. Talk to Mr. Zenter.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk.
Call him right now, wake him up. No.
I'd be happy to speak.
But I'm just going to say that because when Mr. Cuervo said that 2028, the warranty's up, I'm going to assume that maybe 2010 was when the bond measure was in place. So there might be some talk now of putting another bond measure, and we should get some of these projects in that.
Sure. I'd be more than happy to research that. As I sit here today, I don't recall any funding or contributions from the East Bay Regional Park. Of course, may very well be wrong, but staff would be more than happy to research that and see what opportunities we can explore for further funding with East Bay Regional Parks. You are correct. There are no East Bay Regional Parks here in the city of Newark.
Excellent. Any other questions? Okay, next park, please.
Okay. Next park. This is Susan Johnson Bridge Point Park. This is another neighborhood park, and it's adjacent to a school. I'm not sure if the school is open or closed. It is, okay. And so our recommendations for the 2024 priority updates is basically there's just one to replace the playground. It's just it's kind of, a moderate priority. It should be done, but it's not at the top of the list.
Excellent.
And we've added from the 2017 plan, we added a half-court basketball and a little climbing wall to the added amenities for this park.
Folks, any questions regarding Susan Johnson Bridgepoint Park? Just a historical perspective for those of you that do not know. Susan Johnson was a council member in our community, and she served on the city council, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Benu, for I think just over 20 years.
I believe 18 or 22, not sure which.
Okay, so I just want to make sure folks understand that that's why the park was named after her. She lived in this neighborhood, and we've asked the city, as we name parks after notable historical figures in our district, that we have some recognition as to who that person was and why we named a park after them. And I know that that'll be something that'll be forthcoming as well. So thank you to the city for that. Colleagues, questions?
Yes.
Councilmember Jorgens.
Just kind of a, maybe this is kind of bigger picture kind of thought. So you got Susan Johnson Bridgepoint Park, Marabou Park, and Mayhew's Landing Park are kind of all in that kind of same, they're kind of in a row there. All of them, we've got as neighborhood parks where they have less amenities. None of them are going to have a restroom. And I think if you look at our kind of where our parks were when we started the Parks Master Plan in 2017, our kind of status there, and then kind of if we can end the plan, at the end of a 10-year period, that's, an awful lot of work in a 15, 20-year period. And part of what that's done has kind of blurred the lines between the community park and the neighborhood park. As we're providing more amenities, to our community, it's a good thing. But I think, as we go forward, kind of looking at those three parks that have, had less, activity over the last two Parks Master Plans, that, that is something that we look at. And, whether it's a restroom or there's other amenities there, because we are kind of blurring the lines between community and neighborhood parks for really good reasons, because we've been able to do a lot of good work. But I think at some point we're going to have to kind of look beyond that designation, start seeing, hey, how can we best look at these three parks and, serve the residents that live in this neighborhood.
Yeah, maybe to that point, Councilmember Jorgens, as we look at playground structures and different features associated with the playground structures, because of the close proximity, they don't all look the same, but each park maybe has a different theme or a different structure that families can, attend 1, 2, or 3 of them on various occasions. So I think that's a point well taken as well. Any other questions regarding Susan Johnson Park? Okay, next park, please.
Well, that's the end of parks. And before I move on we have just about 3 slides on some of the financial aspects. Are there any questions that
Sir,
still
please.
remain?
Hi, Andrew Patrick. Now you'll get my long spiel. So I'm with the Softball League, and I'll start off by saying we did have a number of families with young girls that were here and wished to attend, but since the agenda items went kind of long today, they have contractual obligations with bedtime that they had to meet. So they were speaking in spirit. Over the last couple months, we've been working diligently with the Parks Department, City Planning, as well as Newark Little League and Newark FC Soccer. And these meetings have been not only incredibly productive, but also refreshingly honest and collaborative. We've been able to identify enough field space that despite sharing the fields with those organizations, we are confident we will have a season in 2025. So first of all, I just want to help you, or commend you for helping save Newark girls softball. However, it has become clear that if this is the situation moving forward that we're going to be playing on city parks land, we need more sports fields. All 3 organizations are growing, and certainly more youth sports organizations will come along. You saw what happened with Newark FC Soccer, where we established a really awesome center for them, and they've gone through the roof. Newark Memorial High Soccer is going to the state championships. It's going nuts. The city of Newark, though, currently only has 2 operable ball fields on city park land. That's one at Birch Grove Park and one at Silliman Center. This is not enough. Newark has gotten by over the last 5 decades by using school land, which is not a common situation. The vast majority of cities, particularly those with strong youth sports programs, play on city park land. If you look at cities like San Lorenzo or San Ramon, they have large sports complexes on city park land. And I understand that a large sports complex is an undertaking. I cannot strongly enough understate the need for more fields around town. at Birch or Silliman or Ash or Community Center or wherever. We need more ball fields. Developing more ball fields, particularly ones that are consolidated together, they facilitate not only the leagues that use them long term, but they facilitate a sense of community. Many of us can remember days spending entire Saturdays at the ballpark, playing our own games, but then playing pickup and running around with other kids. And even last year at Snow, I witnessed younger and older siblings and cousins forming friendships while their family members played. And having witnessed watched all of this. I'm glad to see new softball and baseball fields. I would still say, unfortunately, it's still not enough. Those two parks that I mentioned, plus one more at Ash, and then a baseball field, at the sports field park, it's still just not enough. We can't grow. We're losing 4 fields at Snow. Little League is capped at the junior high right now. We already are requesting the city add lights to the existing fields just so we can survive. We need to look to expand. As the immediate idea, Snow and Music schools are going to be up for sale soon, and those fields, especially Snow, have been used for community recreation use in the past. If we can, I just want to kind of put it out there that if we can entertain the idea of working with this school district, either to purchase those outright or establish an agreement like McGregor is right now, where we are, using those, that is kind of the easy win in terms of adding additional parkland to be used for sports. Secondly, I just want to say that if we can consolidate when possible, that's the best. If we want tournaments, as the soccer field mentioned and as Councilmember Collazo asked, we need those consolidated. You can't really run a tournament where teams are expected to shuttle around multiple places around town. So that's a revenue driver for our hotels, our restaurants, et cetera. Adding more softball and baseball fields, as mentioned, they will continue to pay for themselves over time. These fields don't need to be used exclusively for, Newark Little League, Newark FC, Newark softball. The park department can run slow pitch softball programs for adults, which would facilitate further community for adults looking to find friends. They can be rented out to school teams. They can be used for travel softball and programs, rented out, used for kickball, used for junior giants programs, clinics, soccer camp or summer camps, all sorts of things. We can also happily get creative, as I mentioned, kind of with the cricket pitch, so that they're oriented, so they can be multi-use for use by soccer, football, rugby, or cricket, or whatever. And the community survey results are clear. There is a demand among the people here for more softball fields, but really it's a reflection that we want more space for organized sports for kids and adults. And an investment into these fields is not just an investment for the kids and for the adults, but it will drive revenue for the city. The fields that we have are already used almost year-round on the weekend for travel and softball programs. And with more fields, those programs will only grow stronger. I implore all of you to approve amendments to the Parks Master Plan to add more fields, and I thank you all for your time.
Our pleasure, and thank you for your comments. Oh, by the way, did we make sure we got the survey that the girls put together? Did we get that to the city clerk for our records?
You have to ask the soccer.
Yeah, they took it with them.
I certainly love that because, again, that's what democracy is all about. When we did the last Parks Master Plan, none of us council members really envisioned, maybe Mr. Councilmember Bucci did, but none of us really envisioned a skateboard park. When we had 15, 20 kids show up with skateboards in hand, we knew that was going to be a priority. So we hear the softball fields, folks, we hear the soccer folks, that we need more of these fields available. We absolutely understand that. We get that. We're now going to be moving into the area where we're going to talk about how are we going to pay for all these things. That's going to be a topic that we're going to have a conversation with probably the new council, I would imagine, early next year regarding, these are important features for our community, but how are we going to pay for them? We don't have the roughly $30 to $40 million that's going to be necessary to do all the things that we hope to do. So it's going to be prioritization, and then where's that revenue stream going to come from to help pay for these amenities? I'll turn it back over to Barbara to begin that conversation.
Okay.
Did you bring a checkbook, Barbara?
Yeah, right. Right. So we did have a financial consultant on our team, and I'm going to be presenting some of his slides, but just this is not my expertise. The park design is.
Sure.
So just briefly, about 3 slides. So financial analysis and management. Park funding is required in 2 key categories: ongoing park maintenance and periodic investment in new parks facilities and repairs. So currently, the city functions with primary funding coming from the city's general plan and development impact fees from new development. Just park maintenance, but 3.76 million budgeted for fiscal year 2025-26, and that's primarily from the city's general fund. Capital improvements. The city collects capital improvements funding from new development through its city park dedication fees. And that is, really depends on the level and type of new development. For fiscal year 2023, the Park Impact Fee Fund balance was about 5.8 million, with about 3.8 million in uncommitted funding.
Before we switch slides on that, Barbara, Mr. Benoon, the 2 million that has been committed, could you provide some information on that?
Sorry, 2 million?
It looks like we had a capital balance of 5.8, 3.8
I see.
is uncommitted. So it sounds like we have 2 million committed. Just curious as to where that is.
That 2 million represents CIP projects that have already been approved and funded by council.
Okay, and do you have a sense as to what some of those are at this point?
Yeah, some of those are actually some of the projects you saw tonight. So the completion of Sports Field is an example of one of those projects.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Colleagues, any other questions on this slide before we move on? So, colleagues or folks, any questions on this slide? Great, Barbara, next slide.
Okay, next slide. The capital improvements investments. We've identified potential improvements to actually all the city parks. We've set priorities that are based on the criteria identified in the master plan. The need for additional park maintenance or programming expenditures should also be considered when making these new investments. So that's part of the budget you need to think about. So the grand total for all the recommendations is roughly $36,703,000.
36,703,000, right?
That's a big,
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
number.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
Folks, I'm sorry, Barbara, go ahead.
Any more questions on this? Should I
Was
go
that the
on?
last of the slides, Barbara?
No, I have one more.
Go ahead.
Potential additional funding options. The additional funding options can be divided into two key categories. That's grants and charitable contributions, and review funding provided by new development. So the two categories may be worth pursuing, though each of them comes with unique opportunities and challenges. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Roya.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara. Well, thank you for sitting through all of that. Thank you for all of your comments and feedback, and thank you to the public comment that we received tonight. So what are the next steps? First, we will take all of the feedback received tonight from the council and from the community and incorporate that into the final plan and bring that plan before council to present the draft at a future meeting. At that meeting, we will also present recommended priority groups for each project to help guide future decision-making. And then in mid-2025, staff will present an update of the capital improvement plan to City Council, including recommendations for park projects based on the priority groups that are established in the Parks Master Plan update. And once approved, the capital improvement plan update, including the park projects, will be published on the city's website. This concludes the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions.
Sure. Folks, any questions regarding this item? And Ms. Gonzalez, the only thing I want to add on the next steps is I really want us to look next year with the new council. What are the opportunities for revenue to support? I mean, we got $36 million in identifiable park amenities that we need to consider. So we need to really hone in as to where is the funds going to come from, and whether it's some type of a bond or a tax or whatever. Let's begin having that conversation so we can, begin moving forward on these projects. It sounds like it's a community priority. I think it's a council priority, so let's begin having that conversation early next year as well. Colleagues, questions? Councilmember Collazo.
So would it be possible to ask Lucid if they'd like to have Lucid Fields someplace, you know? Or Facebook, you know?
Yeah, corporate
Facebook-
sponsorship, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we have some big corporations in town.
Yeah.
Let's see if they're interested in helping.
Collazo Fields, I see it.
It'd be a very tiny little field.
Councilmember Apodaca.
Okay, there you go. Maybe that's why. I was going to go along the lines of Councilmember Collazo regarding corporate fields, maybe not the naming rights of a park or anything, but definitely I think as our city manager works on a marketing plan and as these larger picnic areas come up, that we do look at, our economic development team can look at marketing to corporate for company picnics, not just within Newark, but at the larger part of the Tri-City, Alameda County area, because there is always a need. I know we're always looking for a need, my organization, but other organizations as well. When we have some nice fields that are coming up and once they're built, I think they'll be attractive to corporations for their employees. The other thing I wanted to talk about is for staff to bring back to council the possibility of creating a Parks Commission. This is a huge master plan, and I think you do need to have a public commission, whether it's advisory, whatever commission of some sort, but to get people involved and to have champions, right? These are people that care about parks. We want them out in the community, talking to people, talking about the need, especially if you're going to talk about revenue down the road. I know it's a big lift. I know we're a small staff. And I know it's a big lift because I just had to put advisory council in 120 days. So I just want staff to be able to bring something back to the council to talk about it, a proposal such as that, and what it would take if you would take that endeavor on.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, we will look into that.
Councilmember Jorgens.
Yeah, I wanted to also support the idea of a Parks Commission. I think that's going to be really valuable as, you know, we go forward. I think with the 2017 Parks Master Plan, we were really successful in bringing forward the things that the council at the time said that we were going to bring forward. And I think if we want to continue those successes, having a, you know, commission there with, you know, people really passionate about parks, it's going to be really valuable. It's going to be, you know, really help, you know, guide our decision making as we kind of got our goals more kind of spread out, you know, as we, you know, figure out prioritization. I think having a commission is going to be really valuable. It'll also bring more people into the process, which is always good for our community. The other thing that I wanted to mention is, you know, we will have a couple new council members coming in. I hope that as we look at the timeline, it looks similar to the when we did the Public Arts Master Plan, which I think we had the initial meeting before I joined in 2022, and then I was still able to have a lot of opportunity to give feedback. And I hope that, you know, whoever our new council members, they can look at a similar timeline to make sure that, you know, the 5 people that end up supporting it, that, you know, all 5 of us have the real opportunity to, you know, have input there. So the timeline can accommodate that. And then the last thing is just, you know, as we look at some of the funding stuff, that's, you know, obviously going to be a limiting factor. But I think a real limiting factor is going to be land. You know, when Newark was, you know, incorporated going back to the 50s, and the public land was kind of split up between the city and the school district, the idea was, you know, Newark Unified was going to provide some of these public services. And, you know, as that becomes less and less of the case, you know, we're trying to fit more specific uses onto, you know, a smaller amount of land, and that just doesn't work at some point. And, you know, as we look at some of our specific uses, you know, one of the things that we do lose is that unstructured space, that space where, hey, there's just some trees here. Hey, this is a grass field that people can figure out what to do. And that's important park space too. And as we try to, you know, make sure that we're retaining all of our specific uses, which we, you know, need to do, you know, our limiting factor just becomes land as we want to do everything that we want to do. And I don't know what the solution to that is, but I think that, you know, as we start to implement it, we're going to find more than the financing that's going to be our biggest problem.
Thank you. Excellent report. The community engagement that you did was outstanding. not just the number of public meetings, but the dot exercises that you had both at the State of the City address, at Newark Days. We really did go above and beyond in making sure that we reached out to our community to make sure that they were heard. And there's no greater responsibility than we have is to make sure that we listen to what the public demands, some of their priorities. And Ms. Gonzalez, Mr. Manoon, you folks did an outstanding job of making sure we heard from our community. And I want to thank all the young people that were here tonight. Your voices are important to us. And it takes a lot of courage to come up here and stand, but you did. And we heard you loud and clear. So we have quite a bit of work, as mentioned, moving forward to do. I look forward to the challenges. It just makes our community a better community when we can provide the park amenities that our residents insist upon. So thank you, Mr. Manoon. Any closing comments that you have, my friend?
Things been said.
All right, so I'm going to take a 5-minute break. So we will re-adjourn here at 9:28. Resolutions for establishment of a Section 115 trust through the Public Agency Retirement Services PARS Post-Employment Benefits Trust Program and amendment of the 2024-2026 biennial budget and capital improvement plan. Mr. Benoon?
Yes, good evening, Your Honor and members of the council. Item F5 is a recommendation from city staff to authorize the creation and funding of a Section 115 trust. In a nutshell, a Section 115 trust is a cost containment strategy to address the city's OPEB and pension liabilities. If the council may recall, back in May of this year, the council received a report from city staff that summarized the city's efforts to address those liabilities, and the council directed city staff to prepare the necessary paperwork to create a Section 115 trust. This agenda item contains two proposed resolutions that would authorize the creation of that trust. Tonight, we have a presentation from our finance director, Ms. Kristen Lee. Ms. Lee?
Okay, sorry about that. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Kristen Lee, Finance Director. I am pleased to present a walk into the park, but important item tonight, and this is a proposal to establish a Section 115 trust. And the trust will be with the Public Agency Retirement Services Group, also known as PARS. This presentation follows the Council's direction from our May 9th meeting, where the city staff, along with NHA financial advisors, provided a comprehensive overview of the city's pension and other post-employment benefits, also known as OPEB liabilities. We also highlighted the city's proactive measures and ongoing efforts to address these common challenges that are faced by many municipalities across California. And establishing a Section 115 trust was identified as the next strategic step. And this should help us effectively manage our long-term pension and OPEB obligations. Additionally, joining us via Zoom this evening, we have Ms. Saunders, Vice President of PARS Consulting, and Mr. Fritz, Director of PFM Asset Management. They will be available to assist with any questions. Okay, so a little bit of background. The City of Newark participates in CalPERS to provide pension and OPEB to our employees. The city has two primary retirement plans with CalPERS, and one of those are the miscellaneous plan and the safety police plan. These plans cover approximately 900 members, including 170 active employees, and each plan offers specific benefit formulas. Since the implementation of the Public Employees Pension Reform Act, also known as PEPRA, in 2013, public agencies have managed long-term pension costs for new employees by introducing a revised benefit level and higher employee contribution rates. However, the current unfunded liability primarily stems from the classic plans and is not retroactively impacted by PEPRA. So this layer cake visual is an analogy that illustrates the complexity of the unfunded accrued liability payments over time, and which each layer representing additional debt that's added annually based on factors like investment performance and changes in actuarial assumptions such as mortality rates. The fluctuating multi-layer structure of these payments highlights the need for a strategic approach to help manage these costs. The city makes annual contributions to CalPERS to fund both current and past obligations. CalPERS consists of two main components, one being the normal cost. This is the annual expense for pension benefits earned by our current employees. And the other is our unfunded accrued liability, also known as the UAL. This is the city's total pension debt, which represents the shortfall between its obligations and the assets available to meet them. And this amount we need to pay off over time. So connecting this to the layer cake analogy, the UAL is like the entire cake, and the UAL payments are the slices that gradually reduces this debt. The city's total pension liability is $375 million, representing the present value of all future pension benefits owed to employees. The current market value of assets held by CalPERS for the city is $251 million, and this results in an unfunded accrued liability of $124 million. As a result, the city's pension funded status is approximately 67%, but this is comparable to other cities. So these are the various strategies available to effectively manage pension costs. If you see a green check mark, it indicates that the city has already implemented that strategy. The first one being employee cost sharing. This is when we negotiate with employees to share a portion of the pension costs. It reduces the city's financial burden. The next one being the fresh start amortization option. And this is when we restructure the repayment schedule into a shorter time frame to significantly reduce our long-term interest expenses. And then we have the lump sum prepayments, and this is when we make a lump sum payment at a discounted rate. This approach offers immediate savings at around 3.3%. And then the additional discretionary payments, also known as ADPs, these are the contributions beyond the required payments to accelerate the reduction of our UAL, and it also improves the city's funded status. And in the green, establishing a Section 115 trust. This is the only viable strategy that the city has not yet implemented. A Section 115 trust serves as a dedicated reserve for pension costs, providing higher returns, and it helps us pre-fund our liabilities. Thereby, this helps us reduce our long-term financial obligations, and we hope that the city will be implementing this strategy following tonight's discussion. And the last one is our restructuring options, which we are not recommending at this time, as this option does carry significant investment risk to the city. Oh, and our last check mark. Okay. And so thank you to our past and current council members for your leadership and commitment to proactively manage the city's pension and OPEB liabilities. Over the years, the council has implemented nearly all the viable strategies, and this slide shows some of the strategies and the timeline of when these strategies were implemented. So as early as 2005, the city negotiated cost-sharing agreements with employees, and we implemented the Fresh Start amortization strategies for the safety plan in 2015 and for the miscellaneous plan in 2016. We established a pension and OPEB reserve in 2017 with initial funding of $5 million. And this will be the reserve that we're actually transferring money to set up the Section 115 trust. In fiscal year 2021 and 2022, the city took a significant step towards cost management by making additional discretionary payments of $10 million for the safety plan and then $5 million for the miscellaneous plan in 2022. Without these substantial ADPs, our unfunded liability would have remained much higher, and this would have led to increased annual required contributions and higher employee contribution rates for the city. The unfunded liability also accrues an interest at approximately 6.8%, and so this would have also compounded, resulting in a much larger liability and greater long-term costs as well. And then this past May, the council had directed staff to initiate the creation of a Section 115 trust, and leading to tonight's presentation. So a Section 115 trust is a strategic tool that's used by many cities and other governmental agencies to help manage their pension and OPEB liabilities. This slide highlights the key benefits of establishing a Section 115 trust. In terms of flexibility and local control, when a city sets up a trust, a 115 trust, it retains full control of how the contributions are managed, how the funds are invested, and when the withdrawals can be made. This flexibility enables the city to tailor its approach to the pension and OPEB costs based on the city's financial needs and the market conditions. And this offers a more customized and potentially a more advantageous strategy. Because when the city actually sends the money to CalPERS, the contributions are then pooled with other participants' funds as well, and it's managed by CalPERS, meaning that C has no direct control of how these funds are invested. And the next benefit would be the enhanced credit rating. Establishing and funding a Section 115 trust is seen by credit agencies as a very proactive step, and this could potentially improve the city's credit rating. Higher credit rating reduces our borrowing costs for when we need the $36.7 million for our parks. Market volatility. The trust serves as a financial buffer during economic downturns, helping to stabilize our pension payments despite of any market fluctuations. And then lastly, budget stabilization. By pre-funding our pension payments, the trust creates a dedicated reserve, and it reduces the budget volatility and mitigates the risk of any possible financial shortfalls. Okay, and then this slide just shows the trust administrators that the city had evaluated. We evaluated 4 potential administrators, including CalPERS, Keenan, PARS, and Schuster's. The initial evaluation conducted with NHA financial advisors compared cost structures, fees, and services from these potential administrators. Some other key criteria that we considered before selecting PARS included investment options, assessing the strategies and their performances, their reputation, experience. We reviewed the provider's track records as well as received some client feedback. And then the service quality, we evaluated the additional support and any reporting transparency services that was also available to the city. So all of these factors helped confirm that PARS was the best candidate, and they aligned with the city's financial goals and requirements. And so just in summary, PARS was selected due to their expertise, flexibility, superior offerings in managing pension and OPEB obligations. Okay. Any questions so far before I move on to the next?
Questions up to this point?
I do.
Yes, Councilmember Ducker.
I should know this, and I'm going to apologize. So does OPEB, when you talk about the OPEB liability, does that fall under the UAL, so that 123 million, or they're separate costs? So it's 123 of the UAL in addition to the OPEB?
It's an addition, yes.
And how much is the OPEB?
About 5 point something, almost 6 million.
Okay, but you're saying that we have a $5 million reserve that's going to be part of that $12 million that this is proposing?
When we first created the internal pension and OPEB reserve, we had the initial contribution of $5 million, but that reserve has grown to almost $13 million at this point. And so when we do initiate and create this Section 115, we will pull the money from that internal reserve and contribute it towards our pension 115 trust.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this is a slide that shows the PARS 115 trust team. PARS brings over 40 years of experience managing more than 2,000 plans for over 500 clients with the $8.7 billion in assets under their management. As the city's trust administrator and primary consultant, PARS will serve as our main point of contact. And PARS partners with reputable institutions such as U.S. Bank, and U.S. Bank is a leading and conservative bank. It's a very large bank, and U.S. Bank will be serving as the trustee. They will provide essential fiduciary oversight and secure asset protection. Additionally, PFM Asset Management acts as the investment manager, offering a diverse range of active and passive investment options and serving as a sub-advisor to U.S. Bank. So this collaboration ensures robust management, regulatory compliance, and efficient trust administration while maintaining the flexibility needed to align with our city's financial objectives. Again, PARS has over 500 member agencies participating in their Section 115 trust program, and including some of the nearby cities such as Livermore, San Leandro, and Union City. And this slide just shows a few of their other clients that are close by. So this slide shows the trust structure. The key information here is that PARS offers an IRS-approved combination trust that allows for the pre-funding of both pension and OPEB within a single structure. While tonight our focus is on pension, the pension component, the OPEB option is also available. Each sub-account will operate independently with separate statements and assets. And this allows the city to implement distinctive investment strategies that are tailored to the different objectives under one trust umbrella. So the structure provides flexibility and efficiency while leveraging economies of scale by aggregating assets from both accounts to benefit from the tiered fee structure, reducing costs more effectively, and generating long-term savings. And what that really means is, again, we're focusing on the pension trust tonight, but once we open up the account with PARS, the OPEB account is also available. Additionally, there are no setup costs and no required annual contribution amounts and no fees until assets are actually added, offering the city a cost-effective and risk-free way of establishing this trust. Okay, so PARS offers the city two investment platforms to choose from. One is the managed tactical platform, and this is an actively managed investment option with higher cost. And then the second is the target index-based platform. This is passively managed with lower costs, and this is what's comparable to what CalPERS currently offers. This slide highlights the index-based strategy, since this is the platform that staff would recommend us to start with. The platform offers 4 options ranging from the most conservative, which is the fixed income, to a growth-oriented portfolio. The most commonly selected strategies among cities is the conservative approach. However, staff will be focusing on either conservative or the balanced strategies, as the city does not currently require higher risk investments, unlike other cities. There are opportunities to invest in multiple strategies simultaneously, and we will collaborate with the investment manager to conduct an analysis and select the portfolio that best aligns with what our strategic objectives are. The platform also provides flexibility, allowing the strategy adjustments as our priorities change, and as many times as we need to change our strategy, there are no additional fees, yet it's not recommended. It's recommended that we have a general plan, and we try to stick to that plan as long as we can, but things could change, and so it's very flexible. We can easily switch between our options. This slide presents a summary of the historical investment returns for the PARS target index portfolio as of June 30th, 2024, and based on the different strategies ranging from the growth to fixed income options. So growth, this is the highest equity exposure, but this leads to higher volatility, but also has higher potential returns. Bless you.
Thank you.
And then next we have the balanced option. This is moderate equity exposure, offering a balance between growth and stability. And the conservative option, lower equity exposure, focusing more on stability. And of course, fixed income, there's no equity exposure, and so this would be the safest and most stable, but the lowest return option as well. Mm-hmm. And again, this table just shows the actual returns over the 3 time periods, year 1, year 3, and year 5. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. So again, pension and OPEB assets can aggregate for the fees. So PARS fees are determined based on the total assets that's held in the trust. So this gives us an option if as the city's investment pool grows and the asset tiers are reached, our fees will decrease. And then the U.S. Bank and PFM also offers a competitive fee model. This takes into account assets from all member agencies that are participating in the same index-based platform, which currently totals over $9 million. Again, as assets grow, not only will Newark's, but also for the other agencies, our fees will decrease even further as well.
quick question about the fees.
Yes.
Let's assume for a moment that we have $35 million in the PARS account. Will the first 10 million still be subject to the 0.25, or will, because our cumulative assets are 35, everything is going to be reduced to the 0.15?
No, it's the first 10 million is the 0.25, and then as you add on the tiers, the rate will be blended.
I like my example better.
I do too. We'll make that suggestion. We'll negotiate. So this is just the hypothetical table showing our fees. So for initial contribution of 12 million, our monthly fees would be just under $3,200. Okay, and then this slide compares the net performance of PARS and the CalPERS SERPT program, which is actually the OPEB trust over 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year. And the reason why we're using the OPEB trust to do this comparison is because the CalPERS pension trust has not been established long enough to have a 5-year analysis. So it's the CalPERS trust program is a much newer program. So the key points here is that PARS consistently outperforms CalPERS across all the time frames. So for the 1 year, PARS net return was 13.8, and then CalPERS return was 10.9. Over 3 years, CalPERS return, over 3 years, the PARS return was at 2.4, and the CalPERS return was at 0.7. And then 5 years, PARS return was at 8, and then CalPERS was at 6%.
Did you do any kind of an analysis as to if we had done, for example, the $12 million or $13 million in PARS 1, 3, and 5 years ago, what that net differential would have been for the city? Did you do any kind of an analysis in that respect?
I did, but I don't remember all the numbers off the top of my head. But we did look at that, yes.
Okay, thank you. Colleagues, any other questions so far? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so again, why PARS? One of the main things is that PARS were the pioneers in pre-funding pension and OPEB. This is their core business. And PARS has the only IRS-approved Section 115 combination trust, and it's backed by an IRS private letter ruling. IRS is not offering or initializing those letters any longer. So PARS is the only company that actually has that private letter ruling. And then also PARS has a strong partnership with U.S. Bank, and again, U.S. Bank is highly reputable, as well as a strong partnership with PFM. PFM is Global Investment Performance Standards compliant, and what that means is the GIPS is a set of ethical standards for presenting investment performance. An analogy that was used is so that the way to think of it is it's a way to prevent cherry picking on the investments of your returns. So that's what GIPS is. And again, superior net investment performance and cost efficiency was the other reason why we chose PARS. And of course, they have a dedicated service team, fiduciary responsibility, investment policy assistant, and they will be offering annual reviews and more frequently if the city needs. So steps to implementation. Council adopts a resolution authorizing the city to join PARS, the Combo Trust, and then also appoints the plan administrators. And then the execution of necessary agreements with PARS. The city sends the signed resolutions to PARS, and then they will provide all the documentation to us. And the investment strategy selection, this is when we would meet with the PFM Asset Management Group to talk about or choose the appropriate investment strategies. And then we have the account set up. This is the actual establishment of the trust account with US Bank. And the contribution, the initial funding from the city's reserve, this is when we write a check. And then lastly, we'll have our annual review with PARS. Oops, sorry. So in summary, tonight staff requests that council review and approve 2 resolutions. The first helps us establish the trust. It approves the establishment of the trust through PARS and appoints the necessary administrators. And then the second resolution authorizes the funding. So this would approve the allocation of up to $12 million from our pension and OPEB reserve fund to fund the trust. This amount was actually initially already appropriated in fiscal year 2024. But for transparency and accurate accounting purposes, we're asking council to formally allow the city to carry over these funds into 2025.
Excellent. Questions from the audience on this? Maybe you could leave the resolutions up on the screen. What you're asking council to do. The last slide. Yeah. Any questions or comments from the folks? Colleagues, questions, comments? Yes, Councilmember Collazo.
So to appoint the administrator, how do you pick an administrator for that?
Oh, as
Or
part
where
of...
does that come from? Do we hire somebody new?
I know. Councilmember Collazo.
We could.
Typically, the administrator would be the city manager or the finance director or their designees. And so as part of the resolution, it's already pre-filled out to have that language.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Apodaca.
So on the slide before this, I think it was like number 3 of when we would actually do they would give us the analysis of where they think the investment is. What is that time frame? I'm just thinking because it's election time, 2 weeks election, people don't want to make a big decision.
Hello, is Rachel? Rachel, are you on the line? I might have to defer that question to you.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, council members. I'm here. So in terms of when the city makes an investment selection decision, it's completely at your discretion. So we will work to obviously get the trust set up in a timely fashion. Typically, once we have the signed resolution, we'll send out legal documents. And within those legal documents, there is paperwork to ultimately make that investment decision. In terms of the timeline in which you do that, we will work around your schedule. So of course, we can work quickly to do that, or we can take a longer period of time. So the short answer is it's really up to you. No pressure on our end to do it within a certain time frame.
Thank you.
Thank you again for the excellent report. I would like this to come back to council. I wouldn't want to wait 1 year. I'd ask that it come back to the council in 6 months, just to this is a significant investment on our part, to provide a briefing to the new council in terms of how we're doing in terms of our investment portfolio in this regard. The returns that we receive, is that that's on a daily basis, I would imagine, right?
All right, could I defer that to Mr. Fritz?
If I can get off mute, you can. Are we talking about your current returns, or are we talking about the hypothetical future returns?
Hypothetical future returns.
So typically, the investments earn return every day.
Perfect.
Sometimes positive return, sometimes negative return, depending on the markets. You would get a monthly report with respect to investment, what the value of the investment is. But I don't know that I could tell you for sure that you would get a particular, I definitely can't tell you you'd get a certain rate every day.
No, I understand that. But we're going to get a daily return, positive or negatively, and positively that goes right back into the same fund.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's funny. I've been doing this a long time, as you can probably tell from looking at me, but I don't know that I've ever had that exact question before. So I'm trying to be as accurate as possible. But you know, the value of the portfolio can change
Every day.
every day,
Exactly.
potentially. If there are income producing investments like fixed income investments, those will periodically add income to the portfolio. And then there's the change in value of other types of investments that would constitute your total return over time.
Perfect. I'll certainly leave it to the experts, but I also believe that kind of a balanced approach in terms of our investment strategy, that we look at that. It's not all eggs in one basket, but maybe we look at kind of an apportionment of how we want those dollars to be invested. That would be certainly my recommendation, but I'll certainly defer to the experts in this area. So we have 2 items that we need to approve tonight.
Yes.
Can we do those together, City Attorney? Great. I'll look for a motion and a second from council colleagues.
So move.
By Councilmember Apodaca, seconded by Councilmember Jorgens. Please vote. And that passes 5 ayes.
Resolution of the City Council of the City of Newark, California, approving the adoption of the Public Agencies Post-Employment Benefits Trust administered by Public Agency Retirement Services. Resolution of City Council of the City of Newark, California, authorizing the city manager to execute the administrative services agreement and all necessary documents associated with the establishment of the Section 115 Pension Trust, authorizing an amendment of the 2024-2026 biennial budget and capital improvement plan to reappropriate previously approved funds for an initial investment of up to $12 million.
Great. And before we move on to the next item, number 7, Ms. Lee, I thought it was an excellent report. Every question that I would have thought of, you answered in your report. So, Mr. Benoon, thank you for that. The next item is provide input regarding proposed updates to the master fee schedule based on the cost of services study. Mr. Benoon?
Yes, good evening, Your Honor, and members of the council. If the council may recall, for the past year, the council, city staff, and a consultant have been working to update the city's fees charged for services under the city's master fee schedule. A redline version of the updated master fee schedule has been attached to the staff report, along with a 3-page draft policy. Staff will receive feedback from the council during tonight's meeting, and assuming there are no substantial changes, then we can proceed with the public hearing scheduled for November 14th to formally adopt the fees. With that in mind, I'll pass it over to our Finance Director, Ms. Lee, for the staff report. Ms. Lee?
Thank you, City Manager Benoon. Good evening again, Honorable Mayor, City Council members. Kristen Lee, Finance Director. The next item on the agenda is the presentation of our proposed updates to the city's master fee schedule. And this was based on our recent cost of services study conducted by our consultant revenue and cost specialists, also known as RCS. We are pleased to have Mr. Eric Johnson on the line. And he's president of RCS. Mr. Johnson played a key role in helping the city complete the study and presented the findings to the City Council in February. The study is essential to ensure that our fees are accurately reflecting the cost of providing services, which supports the city's long-term fiscal sustainability. The objective of today's presentation is to receive council feedback to incorporate into the final version of the master fee schedule. Just a quick overview of today's presentation. We'll begin with an overview of the study, the legal framework, and the compliance requirements. After that, the methodology used for calculation will be explained, the key findings will be presented, and the fiscal impact of the proposed updates will be reviewed. And the cost recovery policy will also be summarized. Finally, we'll cover the next steps before opening up for questions. So the city partnered with RCS to conduct our first comprehensive fee study in over 10 years. The primary goal was to ensure that the fees aligned with actual cost of services, promoting sustainability, equity, and to reduce the reliance on our general fund. The study identified various opportunities to adjust current fees, as well as introduce new ones and to align with true costs. To comply with state law and best practices, we adhere to guidelines established by the key propositions. So Proposition 4 mandates that fees must accurately reflect the true cost of service delivery. Proposition 218 restricts the creation and adjustment of property-related fees, ensuring that they are fair and legally justified. Proposition 26 differentiates fees from taxes, emphasizing that fees must directly correspond to the specific service that's provided. These legal frameworks guided our approach, ensuring the updated fee schedule is both compliant and defensible. So again, it's important to distinguish between taxes and fees. Taxes fund community support services that benefit the general public, such as public safety, park maintenance, and street maintenance. And the fees, these are charged for personal choice services that provide a direct benefit to specific individuals, groups, or businesses. Examples include development fees, permits, and inspections. And fees may sometimes be subsidized to promote social and safety or community support. The services listed in our master fee schedule document falls into the fee category. And this is where users directly benefit from services provided. The methodology used to update the fees involved several key steps. Our project began with a comprehensive scope covering all city departments, including community development, public works, public safety, the administration department, and recreation. RCS worked closely with these departments to identify fee-based services and allocated staff time spent delivering those services. Then overhead costs was aligned appropriately, and fully burdened hourly rates were calculated to include both direct and indirect costs. The fully burdened hourly rates were then multiplied by the time required to deliver each service, which determined the cost of service delivery. And lastly, we ensured the compliance, we were in compliance with all legal mandates. So the study identified a $9 million gap in our cost recovery across the various service areas. Development services, public safety, and recreation programs were found to be significantly under-recovered. If the proposed fee updates are implemented, the city could recover up to $1.8 million annually, reducing this gap. So the fiscal impact analysis shows that our total service cost amounts to approximately $15.9 million, while our current recovery is about $6.9 million. So that's slightly under 50% recovery. By implementing the proposed fee adjustments, we could increase the revenue by up to $1.8 million on an annual basis, and this approach would help reduce the current subsidy of the $9 million. And this ensures that services are funded more equitably and efficiently while maintaining our community benefits. Any questions on this?
Any questions thus far?
So the updates included adjustments to existing fees, and it introduced new fees for services that were previously not funded. And a cost recovery policy was added to the master fee schedule document. A draft of this policy was attached to the staff report. The policy serves as a framework for categorizing the fees based on recovery levels. First, we have the full recovery set at 100%. These fees is where user receives the direct benefits, such as building permits. Next, we have our high recovery category, which ranges from 81% to 100%. These fees usually cover services that provides both individual and community benefits. And then we have our medium recovery level, which ranges from 51% to 80%, and then our low recovery level from 0 to 50%. These categories primarily cover mostly community benefit services. This policy also includes annual updates based on the Consumer Price Index and the cost living adjustments, along with comprehensive reviews every 3 to 5 years to ensure that our fees remain aligned with our cost. And there's also an option for a phased implementation approach, and this is to help minimize the impact due to these fee increases. Okay, so to summarize, the proposed updates to the master fee schedule are guided by best practices, the cost recovery policy, and the findings from the cost study services report. Sorry, the cost of services study report. Regular fee studies will be conducted every 3 to 5 years with annual adjustments to maintain alignment with the cost of service and as well as our economic conditions. So tonight, staff is requesting feedback to incorporate into the final version of the master fee schedule, which will be presented at a public hearing on November 14th. And following council's approval after November 14th, departments will prepare to implement the new fee structure and issue any public notifications as necessary. Okay, so thank you again. I'm happy to open up the floor for questions.
Please, is there any questions from anybody in the audience? Colleagues, questions? Questions? Yes, Councilmember Koyaza.
When you're doing your study, did you study the cities around us? Is that to see how their fees were?
Yes, that was definitely part of the cost of services study.
So are we a little bit under Fremont so that we can still say we're lower than Fremont when they complain?
We are in line with our surrounding cities. For all the fees, it's very difficult to do an apples-to-apples comparison, but we are in line with Fremont.
That's what I tell them. Check Fremont, we're lower.
Yes, Councilmember Apodaca, anything? Okay, thank you. The phased-in process, and I recognize that, we've gone from what was a very minor fee in some cases to a substantial fee in other cases. The phased-in, will that ultimately result in over that period of time that it will be 100%? Or are you still looking at some kind of a discount because the increase in that fee was fairly substantial? If my question's clear.
Eric, if I could get some help. I'm thinking, Mayor, for every fee, that would be different. So if it is a fee that our target is to reach 100%, then yes, we would phase it in until we reach 100%. And of course, there are fees where we will continuously have, I guess that would be the subsidized part of it, not the phased in part.
And I'm looking at more like when you come back in November, if there's an opportunity, because I imagine you're going to have the fee schedule as part of the attachment.
Yes.
Yes, if you could maybe put a asterisk next to those where you anticipate that phased in ultimately will be 100% over a period of time, okay, versus we will phase it in, but there'll still be a subsidy. I think if you asterisk the ones where we're going to get to 100%, I think that would be helpful.
Okay, great. Note taken.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Great. This is just an information item, yes?
Yes.
Okay. No action on part of council tonight. Okay, excellent.
Wait.
Thank you for that. That concludes our agenda. Mr. Benoon, updates.
Yes, good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. 2 updates this evening. First, Saturday, October 26th at Mayhew's Landing Park, city staff and Urban Forest Friends are hosting a tree planting event. This is from 8:30 a.m. to noon, again at Mayhew's Landing Park. Public is more than welcome to and invited to join us. And if you'd like to volunteer, please sign up at the Urban Forest Friends website. Secondly, the Newark Police Department, in conjunction with businesses over at New Park Mall, are hosting a trick or treat event on Halloween, Thursday, October 31st, from 5 to 7 p.m. My notes are promising a spooktacular night of fun and safety over at the mall. It's very well promised in writing, so I imagine it'll happen. So it's at New Park Mall parking lot near Jack's, again on Halloween from 5 to 7 p.m. And more information can be found on the city, the police department's social media pages on Facebook and Instagram. So that's what we have for this next few weeks.
Great. Colleagues, comments? Councilor Apodaca.
I just want to give kudos to the Parks and Recreations team for the Halloween dog park event. There was some great costumes, and so I really enjoyed being a judge. And it was a great event by all, so great job to our Newark's Park and Rec. And also along that, I just want to give them thanks again for coming up with a resolution to the girls softball league's need for softball fields for 2025. It looks like you found a resolution. And so I do want to say I appreciate that, especially as I was a Bobby Sox player back in the day, and my mom was a treasurer that built that snack shack. So my job was to roll all the coins Sunday nights so she could go to the bank and deliver it. So a lot of memories on that field, so it's sad that it's no longer an opportunity for them, but I do want to say thank you for finding that resolution. In my current job, I have to spend a lot of time outside of Newark, a lot of time in Oakland where there are some really rough neighborhoods. And I just want to say that it gives me gratitude to always come back to Newark, and especially after looking at our master fee and the plans that we have ahead of us. So thank you to our staff for making it a great community to raise our families.
Councilmember Collazo.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I want to say kudos to the staff that puts on the Newark Days. Oh, my goodness. It's been a month already, and my grandson's still talking about it. And he's, remember, and the rides and this and that. But next year, 70 years. Wow. I'm expecting something really special for 70 years. I'm really looking forward to it. And second of all, I want to invite everybody Saturday. It won't be as fun as the tree planting, but we have lots of fun and entertainment on Thornton Avenue in Old Town Newark. Celebration for Dia de los Muertos starts from 12 to 5. We have live entertainment. We have, I believe right now it's like 38 vendors, and we have a resource fair. So I'm really looking forward to it. Come on out. It's going to be lots of fun. We do have the ofrenda contest. I have 9 entries. So I'm looking for judges. So if you're out there, I might pick you to be a judge for the ofrenda contest. And lastly, if you're going to shop, shop Newark.
Councilmember Jorgens.
Yeah, I want to thank staff for the presentation on the Parks Master Plan. That's a huge amount of work that went into that. And I think, we're in a really good spot. We're, have a really good vision for Newark's parks moving forward. And I do appreciate staff for working with the softball league to, make sure that can happen. Hopefully, with this plan we're putting forward can, find some long-term solutions too. And especially, we've got a lot of master plans that we've done and are in the pipeline. Everyone's come back to us, in a very impressive place, and that's reflective of a lot of work from staff. So I do really appreciate that. And I do want to say that Election Day is coming up. We've got a place where you can drop off your ballot right outside this building. So make sure to fill it out the way that you want to, and then stop by here and drop it off in the drop box.
Vice Mayor Freitas.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. Along those lines with the Councilmember Collazo said, Shop Newark. So just a reminder especially for our financial director, it's a year ago tomorrow, Costco did the ribbon cutting opening. So is the millions been coming in as predicted? So to help, but it's a year ago tomorrow, so 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, on the trick or treat, it's coming up for our kids. And I was at the ACTC meeting today, and the ACTC meeting released a preliminary report of the accidents happened, especially on this day, on the 14 cities on the county. And unfortunately, they labeled this holiday, it's the most accidents caused, especially by the bikes and scooters on sidewalks and the pedestrians crossing the streets illegally. It's like 3 to 1. It's unbelievable. 3 to 1 accidents. It's from the Halloween. So please be safe out there, parents, because it's a lot of things happen. And they said because the fast they drive on the sidewalks, it is. So please, happy Halloween to all. And on the same lines, when I left tonight, I have a grandson, Zachary, is 5 years old, and he called me Vovo. And he said, Vovo, it's 3 more minutes to go. 3 more minutes to go. And it is true. And I said, Zachary and Mackenzie, that's of 2 of my grandkids. And I said, I will love you both. So I don't know if they are awake, but they are waiting for me to say that. Now, on your elections, Mr. Mayor, on your FaceTime reports or Facebook reports, you've been, I guess, knocking doors and canvases for votes. You've been doing a good harvesting?
I do my best.
You do your best, so thank you. To be safe to all, and along with Councilmember Jorgen said, so the election is upon us. There's plenty of choices out there, a lot of measures, a lot of good candidates to vote for, so the best of luck, but next time I'll be sitting on this chair, we already know what the replacements will be to sit on this chair, so. And finally, I'd like to recognize Mrs. Gonzalez tonight, special for, your title now is Strategic Initiative Manager. And in the last 5 years, no, maybe more than 5 years, but you've been embraced a lot of causes for this administration. First, you, along with Mr. You did the Civic Center compound buildings. You managed that pretty much. That was 5-6 years ago. And you did the Newark citywide parks, and you did the Arts Master Plan. So you've been one of a kind. So I'd like to recognize you for your hard work, and you've been a great asset for this administration. So thank you on my behalf.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you.
Plus, you recently signed a 10-year contract to stay with the city of Newark.
We have enough money to afford this.
And she's going to contribute to the $36.7 million that we need for our parks. So that's the kind of person she is. Thank you. A couple points. One, the Mayhew's Landing tree planting, you can actually do both, and then go to the great celebration over there at Thornton Avenue. Councilmember Apodaca, she won't say this, but I will say this. She agreed to be a judge next year at the Halloween dog park costume party. I heard her say that, so we're going to reach out to her next year to be a judge once again.
That means we got to find a 6th seat here.
And really to echo Councilmember Jorgens and Vice Mayor Freitas, 11/5 is Election Day. It's really a responsibility of citizens of this country to participate and vote for whatever candidate that you support on 11/5. You have a voice in the democracy, you have a voice in the vision and the implementation of what we do here at the City Council. So participate in the election process. You won't be dissatisfied with the choice that you make because you participated. So we are going to be going into closed session. Are there any comments from anyone in the audience that would like to speak to any item that's on the closed session calendar? We will be, one, conversing with real estate negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, property Stevenson Boulevard, Newark, California, APN 537-850-7-1, 537-850-8, 537-850-10, 537-850-11-3. Sitting negotiators, Mr. Benoon, Stephen Turner, Craig Betancourt. Negotiating parties, Seamus O'Connor and David Biter. Under negotiation, review of price and terms. 2, closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, public employee performance evaluation, our city manager. 3, closed session for conference with labor negotiator pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957.6. Agency designated representative is the mayor. Unrepresented employee, city manager Benoon. We will be adjourning to closed session. Thank you.
Me or do you?